Today on
Doomed!
COVID and Cuomo and crazy right-wing bullshit as usual. Oh my. On today's episode of Doomed with Matt Binder, I will be joined by Mike Figueredo of the Humanist Report to bring you guys a slew of stories about basically what is going on out there. There's just so much to talk about. I needed to have an episode where we could break these down because, you know, sometimes you gotta talk about multiple things. People who watch this show are used to like the long form, one topic, going, deep dive. But on today's episode, we're gonna break a bunch of things down. And I couldn't think of anyone better to do that with than bring him up on the screen right now, my good pal, Mike of the Humanist Report. Thanks for joining me, buddy.
I'm so happy to be here.
Now, I honestly don't know where to start. Before we went live here, before I went live here, apparently you've been streaming all of the secret behind the scenes goodness to your Twitch followers.
I've been trying to do a sting video and get you to say something really bad.
Right.
He didn't, though.
Yeah. Well, there's some codes in there. You got to figure them out. I will say, very, very smart move with the blue screen behind you. I'm sure nobody will do anything nefarious with that.
Oh, God, I didn't even think about that, Matt, but now I'm going to be paranoid.
But yeah, I wouldn't worry. Everyone knows that the internet's full of kind people, especially on YouTube and Twitch.
They would never. I haven't made a single enemy, so I have nothing to worry about.
Oh, right. Hell, I don't. From what I've seen, that's not even true with people on the left. I mean, I've seen that you got into some. You got caught up into some silly leftist drama in recent weeks.
No matter how much I try to avoid it, you can't step anywhere without landing in one of those like landmines. Like it's impossible. So yeah, I'm knee deep in shit again.
Right. Well, we can't all be. I don't even know if I want to go. I wasn't even thinking about talking about this. Maybe if we do, we'll put it deeper into the show so people aren't getting this the first thing.
There you go.
There's more important issues to talk about. Like, for example, COVID-19. I've been covering this on the show for a very long time. In fact, when the pandemic first happened in like March of 2020, pretty much all my, upcoming episodes got scrapped. And I quickly did episodes on, what the pandemic was. I did episodes on what it meant for people who are out of work and the rent crisis going on. I did episodes on how anti-vaxxers are using it. I've done episodes, and this is completely different from the anti-vaxxers, how white supremacists were weaponizing COVID. So tons of coverage on it on the show. But you would think now that there's a vaccine, things are looking up. Not so.
Yeah. Sometimes when I just do like research on some of the variants of concern, I begin to spiral because it really seems like it's inevitable that there will be a strain that's resistant to the vaccines. And then we're kind of back to square one. And I don't know how to process that because currently, even if in the United States, we weren't dealing with vaccine hesitancy disproportionately from Republicans, we're just not vaccinating people around the world fast enough. So it's a scary situation because it really feels like COVID-19 is the new normal and we're going to be in this perpetual state of a pandemic because we're, for a number of reasons, global capitalism, insanity on the right in the United States. It's a pretty frightening time, honestly.
Right. I mean, I knew this was going to happen. I knew there were going to be, anyone who didn't see this happening, I know President Biden had this goal of, I think it was like 70% vaccination rate by July 4th. It did not happen. I believe we're still under 50%. But it was going to happen. This was, I guess the one thing I wasn't ready for, because I'm not a scientist or a medical professional, I didn't quite see these variants. I mean, yeah, I was told that these things can mutate, but if unless you're in that world or have an understanding of it, which I never claimed to, you're not quite prepared to see exactly what that can do. And we're seeing with like literally with these vaccines, even we're seeing the rate across the country go back up to, I think the highest peak was summer of 2020. We're not there yet, but we're getting to like the beginnings of the pandemic all over. Like we're literally like rewinding. Like we're not even moving forward. Like we're gonna have a deja vu, and God forbid the actually the peak of the pandemic was not the summer. I'm looking at the chart now. It was
during winter.
during winter, right? December,
Yeah.
January. We might see that again.
Yeah, and what's really frightening to me is how quickly everything changed because a couple of months ago it really felt like things were going back to normal, at least, for me in my personal life. I got vaccinated and finally I got to see family for the first time in a year, because we were all vaccinated. And now all of a sudden, Delta variant hits and the numbers are frightening. And basically every single state, you see surges. You see in Florida, the daily average is reaching winter levels, which is when it was at its worst. So I'm just thinking about like if enough people aren't vaccinated come Christmas, when everyone kind of congregates back indoors, how bad is it actually going to be then with Delta variant? It's I just like I've tried to address vaccine hesitancy on my channel. Like I'll share these stories of people who regretted not getting the vaccine. It was like I did one today of this man. He was the father of 5, and his last words basically to his wife was, "I should have gotten the damn vaccine." So like I'm trying to put this into perspective for people, that this is about their own health. This isn't me, some like liberal cuck who's trying to get them to like inject, whatever the conspiracy is, like a microchip into them. Like this is a serious thing, and I want people to take it seriously. But I feel like all of the efforts, I don't know what works, and it really leaves you feeling hopeless because there's only so much that we can do at the individual level. We can get vaccinated, we can vaccinate our families, but if the rest of the country doesn't do that, then the anti-vaxxers, they're not going to help us reach herd immunity, and so they're kind of holding all of us back, and they're the ones who are they're prolonging the state of the pandemic. And I thought that on the debate that I watched with Charlie Kirk and Vosh made a really good point about how it's the anti-vaxxers right now. They're keeping us in a perpetual state of pandemic. And that's what about our freedom? Like, we hear this argument, freedom from, anti-vaxxers. Well, what vaccine passports? That's bad. This is a civil liberties issue. But what about our freedom, right? We should be able to raise children in an environment that isn't plague ridden 100% of the time. I mean, you're never going to eradicate all disease, but this pandemic is something that we actually do have the capability of getting rid of, but we're not doing it. And it's really frustrating.
Right. I mean, I don't know what people who I listen. There's no really understanding anti-vaxxers in terms of what they like getting through to them when they truly believe that there's a microchip or 5G or any. But that's not who I'm talking about here. But the people who are hesitant and they think they hear someone like you, me, or bigger independent media or whatever, promoting getting vaccinated. And they think, what do they think? They think, hold on, let me just move this out of the way. My Pfizer contract, where I'm getting paid by them.
Let me take mine off the screen too.
Yeah, I just had to
actually.
move it. I dropped everything when I moved it. I don't know what they think. Like we get nothing out of telling you to get vaccinated, except we don't want you to die. And
Right.
also, we don't want anyone else to die because of your foolishness. Because you can easily, like Mike was just saying, not only get other people sick, but you can also help this disease, COVID-19, continue to mutate. This virus, I should say, continue to mutate to the point where maybe one day these vaccines aren't even as successful as they are today.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that whatever we can possibly do to accelerate the vaccination process, I think that's important. And I read this really interesting article. It was from Raw Story. So they spoke with a sociology professor from Dartmouth. or Dartmouth, excuse me. I always pronounce that weirdly. But this professor said something that was really interesting to me, but totally believable. And this isn't like backed up by data. This was just their speculation. But they posited that you can probably convince a lot of these folks to get vaccinated if they believe that they're doing it, and in doing so, they're owning the libs. So basically, use their negative partisan beliefs against them, and try to get them to believe that doing so will anger liberals and the Democratic Party, and then they will actually be more likely to get the vaccine. And I don't know how, like in the real world, you try to do this, but I mean, I feel like maybe we should just go crazy and like change the narrative, and all of a sudden be like, don't get vaccinated. It's bad, and maybe they'll like it's reverse psychology. I'm kind of at a loss, and I'm so desperate that I'm willing to try crazy things like that.
Right. I mean, listen, if you want to own me, certainly do get the vaccine.
I'll be so mad.
It would terribly, it would ruin my day. It would ruin my month. It would ruin my year.
Yeah.
It would ruin my life.
Yeah.
I mean, last week on this show, on the Patreon half of the show, by the way, patreon.com/MattBinder, if you'd like to support this show, or you can always go to youtube.com/MattBinder and subscribe there. This is mainly, I guess, for the YouTube plug, putting it out there for your Twitch audience.
Yes, everyone, please check out Matt Binder.
Now, on my show last week, though, I sort of got very angry at this CNN tweet/newsletter I saw, because they discussed it in both, from Brian Stelter, reliable sources, where basically he was promoting this statement by a art gallery owner in Manhattan, who was very upset about the mask mandate coming back, if it did, and how it would terribly affect all the businesses of New York, because people don't want to go out. There's no joy in wearing a mask. It's not just a mask, he said, this art gallery owner. And Brian Stelter promoted this guy going on this crazy rant. And by the way, he's also a big Ron DeSantis fan, this art gallery owner. Thinks he's doing a great job down in Florida. And Brian Stelter was like, we're not listening to enough voices who are going to be affected by any possible mask mandates. And I'm thinking, all we've been hearing from, not just who we've been hearing from, not just who the media covers, literally every act, every policy, every mandate that we have done. When I say we, I mean our leaders and our governments, local, state, federal, everything has been at the behest of business. What is going to hurt the economy, business, capitalism the least? It's all been framed that way. From who the media decides to talk to. I mean, literally, I played a compilation last week when I was discussing this. CNN claims they never speak to enough business owners about how COVID mandates affect them. Literally a compilation of 10 business owners they had on the show in like a month or two span, who were going on and on about how it's so hard to find workers because they have to compete with unemployment, and how things would be so much easier without the unemployment.
Yeah.
The mandates were all based on what would hurt business the least. The fact that we even have an eviction crisis looming, I know we have it now been pushed for a month or two, but it's still looming, obviously, because it's not, it hasn't been forgiven, is because the money that's been put aside to pay landlords for people's rent has not been distributed. I think something like a ridiculously small amount's been distributed. So landlords are going ahead and looking to evict. Again, this was before the moratorium got extended for another month or two. But imagine the government just gave that money that they're setting aside to landlords and having a real hard time distributing for some reason, just gave it to everybody like they did the stimulus money, which that was distributed pretty damn good, if you ask me. I mean, but no, we
Yeah.
can't do that because they got to make sure the landlords get this money and they got to give it right to them. And I guarantee you that so many landlords will take that money and not put it towards the money owed by those renters, by those tenants. They will look at that as free money from the government, put that in their pocket, and when the moratorium is lifted, peace, tenants evicted. They're not going to even put that money towards the debt the tenants owe.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, and I don't think that people are really thinking this through. I mean, part of the reason why the money hasn't been distributed is because it wasn't going through like an existing program that the state has. Like the state has their own, set of programs for healthcare, Medicaid, and whatnot, but there's no program for something like this. So it kind of left them in the state of like shock, scrambling, trying to figure out how to best distribute that money. So if distribution alone is an issue, then I can't even imagine like them actually trying to have some sort of accountability as they give out the money is even a possibility.
I mean,
So it's
the IRS knows what our home living situation is, being that we do our taxes. They use our taxes to figure out how much to pay us via the stimulus. They know how many kids we got. They know about relationships, marriage, head of households, even domestic situations, dependents, whether they're your children or not. Seems like they could have been given the role of doing this as well. I don't. Maybe I'm out of my, not my area of expertise, and there's a good reason to not do that. But it seemed to work for stimulus. And
yeah, I feel like that's just the more efficient
unemployment,
way,
not to cut you off, I'm sorry, the federal unemployment money too. I mean, I know the states have
right?
but the federal government's been adding to people's unemployment as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I want to go back to what you said about masks, because any conversation about masks and how inconvenient this will be, like by definition, is absurd. It is now the case that it's recommended that vaccinated people wear masks because we can transmit the Delta variant. This doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form. Putting on a piece of cloth over my face, I mean, if I had to do that every time I went in public for the rest of my life, I don't care. What I care about is crushing the virus entirely. So like the issue about masks, like it feels like whenever we see mainstream media like Brian Stelter in that segment that you referenced that I haven't seen yet, whenever they try to coddle these people and anti-maskers and make it seem as if this is going to hurt business, it's absurd, and it really speaks to like how out of line the media is with like the real issues. And the real issue is the fact that people are refusing to get vaccinated, and it's not just vaccine hesitancy. Again, like I don't think that the media has educated people about just how catastrophic it is that we are not adequately distributing these vaccines globally, because even if 100% of Americans got vaccinated, sure, for now we're going to be okay, right? We're not going to see these surges in states like Florida, in Louisiana, in Arkansas, but it's just a matter of time before the virus mutates to where there's a new strain that's resistant to vaccines. And again, I don't think people have really grappled with the seriousness of this to where we're exactly back to where we were when the pandemic started. And the issue is that it's going to be even worse if that is the case, because when the pandemic started, there was at least a small window of time when Americans took it seriously, but now we're all fed up, right? Everyone has lockdown fatigue and COVID fatigue. So it's just the situation is kind of spiraling out of control. And the conversations that we're having about masks and like civil liberties, they're just absurd. Like yesterday on Dystopian Times, we watched a clip of a Newsmax host. He brought on this pastor who claimed that all of this is like this Marxist plot to lay the foundations for a future genocide. Like this is the new civil rights movement, right? So if you're unvaccinated and vaccinated, now the liberals, now the Democratic Party, they want to, seat you at different areas. Doesn't this sound a little bit familiar? So they're trying to equate this to like the civil rights movement. And the fact that we're even having this conversation in and of itself is absurd. But it's not like this small thing. Like we can't just say, well, I saw this one conversation on Fox News with Tucker Carlson and it was crazy. Like this is a really dominant mindset. And I don't know how to change course. I don't know if we can change course, if it's even possible.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we are, we're
Doomed.
we're doomed. Yeah. Thank you. We are doomed. I mean, I first of all, I want to also say how the masks really don't affect me at all either. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that, like, listen, does it do the? You're going for a nice walk. It's the summer. You have the mask on your face. Does it get a little bit maybe uncomfortable a little bit into the walk if it's really hot? Yeah, but it's no big deal. It's not like the
Right.
end of the world. There's tons of things. I mean, it would probably also be more comfortable to just walk around with no pants on. But we don't do that, right? I mean, the idea that we don't wear clothing for other reasons and it would be more comfortable to not wear that clothing is just ridiculous. I mean, I know that Tim Pool was going on about the masks, and this is a guy who literally wears a beanie 24/7. I mean, I can't think of a more pointless piece of cloth than
Mm-hmm.
a winter item meant to keep your head warm, being worn during spring, summer months. Yet he does it. I'm sure his head gets hot. I'm sure it's uncomfortable, but he does it. And you want to talk about health implications? I've discussed this part of it before. Where does heat escape from the body? Through the top of your head. So this guy could possibly faint from being so hot, all that heat, and some 100 something degrees out. Who knows? So the idea that the masks are something unhealthy, I will say this: the masks are great during the winter. Even if this all ended tomorrow, I would still wear the mask during the winter because what a great way to keep your face nice and warm without that. I'm never a big fan of scarves. It's just too long
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. It's just a complete non-issue. I go out, do whatever, wearing a mask, and have been just fine.
Yeah, and let me just say, I am like the worst person in theory who should hate wearing masks, right? Because I have a beard. So when it's super long, when I take off the mask, my beard looks awful. I have like, it's like bedhead, but it's beard head. And also I have glasses. So, it steams up, my glasses wearing them. So I should be the biggest petulant child, but I'm a grown up. I understand this is a pandemic and we have to deal with these minor inconveniences until we get rid of the pandemic. If you don't like masks, get that fucking vaccine, and we'll be that much closer to eradicating this, at least in the United States, for a limited amount of time. I'm so frustrated, and I feel like before, like, here, this is my doomer take. Before I was very like optimistic. I would think that if we just like try to meet these folks on their level, try to reach out to them, try to understand where they're coming from, then perhaps we can persuade them. But it's to the point where we're a year and a half into the pandemic, almost 2 years into the pandemic, and all of these basic things should no longer be discussed. Like, we should just already know as grown-ups what we have to do. Okay, cases are up in my area. That means we have to mask up. That means we should probably social distance, not congregate indoors, not be around unvaccinated people. Like, it's frustrating that we have to keep reiterating these things, and my patience has basically run out. And I think that as a podcast host, that's bad, because I'm trying to reach people and convince them, but just like screaming at them and scolding them probably isn't going to do the trick. But I'm so frustrated, and that's the sentiment that I'm seeing from so many other folks. It's just like I was browsing Reddit, and there's a coronavirus subreddit that I think is great. It's really informative, and I've been following this subreddit for a very long time. And at the beginning of the pandemic, it was all this spirit of solidarity, like, hey, we can do this, we can crush this. And now recently, like, there's all these articles about how the unvaccinated are dying at much higher rates, and I see so much callousness in the comments. People are like, well, should have got vaccinated, because I think people are just really, really, they're tired of it. And I don't like, I want people to get vaccinated so they don't die. But with time, people are like, their patients are going to run out. Like, I just heard about something that I didn't even consider, which is, I forgot what it's called. It's what nurses experience. It's fatigue, compassion fatigue, basically, where, they see the fear in the eyes of people who have COVID-19. They know how afraid they are as they intubate them, but they think, should have got the vaccine. So people have been desensitized, and I think that overall that's bad. Like, I think it's bad that I've run out of patience, and I'm basically yelling at my camera now saying, for the love of God, get vaccinated. but we're all humans, and I would love to move on from COVID-19. I would love it. Nothing would make me more happy than to move on from COVID-19 and perhaps, channel my energy elsewhere. Perhaps the climate catastrophe. Not that we can't do both simultaneously, but like I want to like move on from this apocalyptic thing that we're dealing with and move on to the next dystopian thing that we're dealing with.
Right. Right. And, like you said, you did a clip on your channel about COVID patients who, their last words are regret for not getting the vaccine. And it's like, you said you covered one specific scenario where that happened. I feel like if you go online now, you see it almost every other day. Someone
Yeah.
who regrets not getting the vaccine. Every now and then, you'll even see someone who was a complete COVID denier, calling it a hoax. Then 5 days later, posting that they got COVID, but they'll get through it because it's bullshit. They just got a cough. Who cares? And then another 5 days later, they're going to the hospital. Then another 5 days later, they're on the oxygen tank. And then another 5 days later, they're dead.
Right.
It's like, just, it could all just be avoided. Like, all just be avoided. Just get the vaccine. Just get the vaccine. It's, my God.
It's not that big of a deal. I mean, throughout life, there are things that we do that we don't even think about that are meant to protect us, right? Every time you get into the car to go somewhere, you're going to put on that seatbelt almost instinctively, right? I don't even think about it. It's just something that I do. So getting vaccinated to protect ourselves from these types of viruses, it shouldn't be that big of a thing. I mean, vaccines are wonderful. Vaccines never used to be controversial, but now they're hyper politicized, and it's just I'm thinking of this video from H Bomber Guy. He covered like the beginning of the anti-vax movement, and how easily people, they get duped by hucksters, right? Because the father of the anti-vax movement was trying to sell his own version of the vaccine. And it's really frustrating. And now we kind of see that, albeit in this new era where people will go online to their YouTube audience, or even Fox News, Tucker Carlson, and he'll tell his audience what they want to hear, even though we know damn well that Tucker Carlson is vaccinated himself. So it's just like, much more hucksters that we're dealing with, and their reach is a lot more far widespread. One thing that really makes me upset when I think about this is that, like, in theory, right, we all have like these mini computers, and I know that this is a very boomer point to make, but in theory, we should be smarter than ever because we can Google anything, but we're dumber than ever. Like we are the most misinformed, conspiratorial that we've ever been. And like my thinking was that like as time goes on, society or humanity in society is going to really evolve. And I think that cell phones, technology, and the internet has accelerated the spread of like people getting informed. But the complete opposite has been true, and it's to really think about these things. It really makes me feel hopeless and frustrated. I don't know, like I feel like I'm repeating myself about this sense of exasperation, but I don't know what to do anymore to reach people. Like genuinely, I get that people think that I can't be trusted because I'm a leftist and I'm a big socialist boogeyman. But folks, I don't want you to die, even if I want to shake you because you're frustrating me because you refuse to get vaccinated. I do not want you to die. Like I don't sit there and read these stories.
Sounds like you want to give all these right wingers SIDS from shaking.
COVID, no. SIDS, possibly.
Right.
But it's like,
because
I don't
obviously
read these stories thinking like, "Mwahaha, yes, another Republican died who didn't get vaccinated." No, it's sad. Like,
just to spell out what that means, what my little joke there. Yes, I'm calling these right wingers big babies.
It's accurate. It's so accurate. Isn't it sudden infant death syndrome?
Yes.
Is that
yes.
Okay? Yeah.
It's it's incredible. Maybe we should now move on from COVID. I'm sure we'll be having these conversations many more times.
Oh God, I know.
another topic I mentioned up top today is Cuomo, and I'm talking about obviously Governor Andrew Cuomo, New York governor to be more specific. Andrew Cuomo, a guy who I have had a strong opinion on for many, many years. He is extremely corrupt. He runs state government like The Godfather. It's like a really is like mafia esque. He propped up, I should say, a right wing Democratic caucus. Basically, there were a bunch of Democrats in the state Senate called the IDC who voted along with the Republicans, which basically helped give Governor Cuomo cover to make sure that progressive legislation didn't pass, all while Andrew Cuomo was able to go out there and, herald himself as some big progressive hero. I could go on, but let's go to the more recent things, such as how he handled COVID. Everyone thought he was great because that was the narrative for the longest time in the early days of the pandemic. However, people paying attention and living in New York could see through it because things were, I don't know how anyone could say that the state that was hit hard by COVID first and was hit really hard, their governor did a great job. No, you just can't do that. I'm sorry. Did he put on a good bravado and pretended really well and reprimanded bad boy Donald Trump so that he could get some good press? Absolutely, he played up that role great. Cuomo was a great actor in that scenario. But that really was all he was good at because we know that there were more than 10,000 deaths in nursing homes. I think the number is over 11,000 actually. Because in the early days of the pandemic, Cuomo had a policy to send people living in nursing homes who were sick with COVID back to their nursing home, thus getting everyone else in the nursing home sick. If you lived in New York City or New York in general, probably at the time, but especially in New York City because of the density here. I live pretty close to a specific nursing home that made headlines in the news, and something like 80, 90 people died of COVID in that nursing home in those first months. And we were hearing ambulances multiple times a day. It became just ridiculous. My assemblyman, Ron Kim, was the one to call Cuomo out on that and shine a light on the situation, because on top of his policy, you can say, oh, early days, maybe he didn't know. We didn't know how COVID spread. I disagree. It should be pretty obvious not to put sick people with healthy people in a nursing home. But even if you want to give him that, he then proceeded to try and hide the number of deaths and not count the nursing home deaths in the COVID totals. Just unbelievable, really. And so now what he's finally getting punished for, or maybe I should say facing the consequences for, is shortly after the nursing home scandal, a few women came out and accused Cuomo of sexual harassment throughout his career as governor. And once one domino fell, other women came out. And we're talking about individuals who spanned his career, who were of all levels of in their own career. So this isn't some there a certain group of people out for Cuomo. These are people who appear to be both progressive and establishment Democrat, really across the ideological spectrum, at least as it is in New York. There was one case where even a state trooper claims that Cuomo sexually harassed her. And the I think the total is 11 women, and the New York Attorney General Letitia James, who I should say unofficially ran on a ticket with Cuomo in 2018. Now you vote for in 2018 New York voted for a New York governor, a lieutenant governor, and a AG, all separately, but they basically teamed up as like, oh, vote for me and then vote for them too down the line, down the ticket. So you had Cynthia Nixon, Jumaane Williams, And oh my God, what's Zephyr Teach Out? I
Mm.
can't believe that name almost had a memory block there. Are basically, running on their own. You didn't have to vote for all three of them together, but they were running as a campaign. You should vote for all three of them. And on the other end, you had Cuomo as governor, Hochul as lieutenant governor, and Letitia James AG. And they were all saying, "Oh, vote for us is a straight line ticket." The straight line ticket of Cuomo, Hochul, and Letitia James won. And now here's Letitia James coming out strong against Cuomo, put together this investigation, released this report, and Cuomo's looking bad. And you can't claim that she's got some, she hates Cuomo or something. She was telling people to vote for him for governor.
Yeah, didn't he? So he denied every single allegation, like the 10, 11 women. He said all of it is bogus, and he said that the outcome of the investigation was, I think, biased was the word that he used. When Letitia James, like, she reviewed more than 70,000 pieces of individual evidence. So to say that she's biased and she wasn't thorough here, it really goes to show you how brazen Andrew Cuomo is, because the nursing home scandal alone should have sunken him. Like, he should have resigned in shame. But the fact that now the conclusion of this investigation is devastating, and you have the president of the United States calling on him to resign, which is I don't think you get more political pressure than that, and he's still not budging. It's I want to say it's shocking, but at the same time, it's entirely predictable if you know anything about Andrew Cuomo and how he's basically the mafia boss in New York.
Right. Oh, anyone who thought Cuomo was going to resign after all this does not know Andrew Cuomo. And from judging from people calling themselves Cuomo-sexuals because they thought he was so great during the pandemic, seems like a lot of people really are unfamiliar with this guy. He is as corrupt as they come. Like, the hypocrisy of him going after Trump when this guy is just as corrupt but in different ways. He gave, literally, you can look at every single big sort of New York State contract doled out to private enterprise over his tenure, and you will find someone who is friends with Cuomo or has some connection to Cuomo. There was a whole scandal called Buffalo Billions, where there was a bunch of people connected to Cuomo went to jail, and of course Cuomo got away with scot-free because he always makes sure he's just that one Kevin Bacon degree removed, so it just can't come back to him, even though it's impossible for this of all to have went down the way it did without Cuomo's involvement in some way. He is incredible and there was never any way he was going to resign. The New York State Assembly is now going to have to put together articles of impeachment. I mean, I don't see how Cuomo survives this. Again, he will not lie down and throw the towel in, but I don't see how he survives the process here because it's going to be not in his favor, unlike Trump, where he had the Republican Party behind him. The Democratic Party, like you said, is turned against him. They're heading the charge here. And when you said, it was so brazen of him to attack those women to defend himself, I don't even think that really drives it home. What really will drive the brazenness home, I should say, is this montage. Did you see this, Mike?
The montage that he put together?
Yes.
I saw part of it, and I can't.
Well,
I don't even know how to describe it.
You and everybody else are in luck because I have the clip right here. Basically, in a statement put out that same day, a video statement, he defended himself by also, alongside his words defending himself, he put together, or had someone put together for him, a video package showing that he hugs, kisses, fondles everybody. So there's no way he was sexually harassing those women. Let's play this amazing package here.
I've been making the same gesture in public all my life. I actually learned it from my mother and from my father. It is meant to convey warmth, nothing more. Indeed, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of photos of me using the exact same gesture. I do it with everyone, black and white, young and old, straight and LGBTQ, powerful people, friends, strangers, people who I meet on the street.
I just want to say, if you're gonna, put together this package, maybe don't include Bill Clinton in it. First of all, I mean, why not? Why not show? Why not put right after it you embracing Anthony Weiner or something too while you're at it? I mean, really unbelievable. I mean, it is stunning, and he's just talking about the kissing and the hugging, which is, people don't like that if it's not consensual, and you shouldn't do that unless it's consensual. And especially if you're someone's boss too, and you're talking coworkers, like that's just not how you act in a work setting, a professional setting. It's just no. But like some of these claims here aren't just like a kiss on the cheek. We have an executive assistant who claimed that he would grab her butt. He called multiple subordinates of his mingle mamas. He had hinted at staffers younger than him in their 20s that he would date a woman as young as 22. There is one woman who said that he reached under her blouse and grabbed her breast. There's another woman who claims that she met Cuomo at a function for her energy company that she worked for, and she was wearing a company T-shirt with the company's logo across her chest. And he came over and he like ran his fingers across her chest and made a comment about the company with like a nod and a wink about what he was really doing. He took the state trooper one is amazing because he basically changed the rules of who could join his protective service unit after meeting the state trooper who her own colleagues at the state, other state troopers told her, oh, it looks like the governor's got a crush on you, because apparently you needed to work 3 years as a state trooper to be part of that special governor's unit. She was not a 3-year on the state trooper. She wasn't a state trooper for 3 years. They literally changed it to fit the amount of time she was a state trooper to get her on. And then he would make sexually suggestive comments to her throughout her tenure on that protective service unit. He apparently constantly making remarks about sex drive and having girlfriends and how he was lonely during the pandemic and wanted to be touched. Like this is the governor of New York. This is these people's boss. And again, on top of all that, this is a guy who runs his state government like he's the Godfather, like he's Al Pacino in Scarface. So you know that those people aren't only being sexually harassed. Everyone in Cuomo's circle who works for him and is around him and serves to protect him so to advance their own careers, they are helping him do this by making sure that these women won't go out there and do anything, won't be believed. Lindsey Boylan, who is, I believe she was the first woman to come out and make these claims against Cuomo. The governor and his people put together this package of material from when she worked, the like private information about her career that they put out there to try to undermine what she was saying. And now she's going to apparently sue the governor over this for breaching her privacy. I mean, it is bad. I don't even know what else to say. Like, there's no way anyone looks at this, but there are people who are. There's no way anyone looks at this though and can say like this is acceptable behavior.
Yeah, and the way that he describes it, like just going back to that video, that's like he's literally living out this like liberal meme, right? Like the meme of like, oh well, when Trump dropped bombs, it was on this like bland looking drone, and now that Biden is doing it, it's a drone with like the rainbow flag and it has Black Lives Matter on it. Like he's literally living out that meme in the way that he talks about this. Like, no, I groped, people who were gay, straight, black, white. I've groped gropers. So like the fact that he was, he didn't discriminate in the way that he inappropriately touched people. He thinks that that is genuinely going to make people feel better about the situation. I think that like he's got to lack self-awareness to even put that out. Like I think that maybe he believes that all these inappropriate comments are just, oh well, that's part of my nature, so it's fine. No. That's not okay though, and that's what the whole point of like the Me Too movement was. All these things that you think are acceptable, they're no longer acceptable. People don't want to be touched. We don't have to tolerate this sort of behavior. People who are, grabbing your face and hugging you, and like with him, like reaching under the blouse. I mean, there's no way that you could spin that and make it seem as if, oh well, I'm just really this touchy feely type of person. There's no way to spin that. Like
Right.
if he survives this, if the impeachment, which I can't see how it fails, if it does fail, then basically everything is on the table. Like nothing is disqualifying for someone in public office, because this is truly beyond the pale in my opinion. But I mean, I feel like Donald Trump kind of lowered the standards collectively of what we're willing to tolerate in society. It goes back to that whole, well, I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and I'd get more followers. All of the women that accused Donald Trump, I think that like he normalized it, and now Democrats like Andrew Cuomo are kind of like using his refusal to like step down and unwillingness to apologize or ever admit wrongdoing to help himself. And it's wrong. Like it's really gross.
Right. Absolutely. And I just wanted to, because I remember this one specifically. I wanted to get exactly what happened. That woman who worked for an energy company. She wore a shirt with the name of the energy company written across her chest. When, just like a t-shirt. We're not, it's just a normal shirt. When the governor reached her, he ran 2 fingers across her chest, pressing down on each of the letters as he did so, and reading out the name of the energy company as he went. Then the governor leaned in with his face close to her cheek and said, "I'm going to say I see a spider on your shoulder," before brushing his hand in the area between her shoulder and breasts below her collarbone. I mean, come on.
That's there's no way he can feign ignorance or innocence. That's so incriminating and perverted. Like honestly describe it, like that is peak predator behavior. So I just it's very Trumpian of me to see his denial, to read the response to the conclusion of Letitia James's investigation. It just feels like he's trying to be like the Trump of the Democratic Party. And I am thankful that Democrats are actually being principled. And I think like basically every member of Congress from New York denounced this in a joint statement, and they called on him to resign. And they even like used his own words against him, that there should be a zero tolerance policy for sexual harassment. He was saying that before about somebody else who he was calling on to resign. I'm not sure if it was a state assemblyman or whatnot, but it's just all of this is kind of like he's trying to play on the era, I should say, of acceptability for sexual harassment. Like Trump made this okay, so he's thinking, you know what, I'm going to ride that wave too. It's truly reprehensible, and people like this should be nowhere near power. But hopefully we actually see some accountability, because if there's no accountability for this, then anything is permissible now. I mean,
Right.
they can politicians can get away with anything.
I should add too, because I see some discussion about it in the chat about like who would feign such a detailed, strange story. Absolutely, but not only that, she went ahead right after and told her coworkers at the energy company what the governor did, because she was so uncomfortable with it, and they were able to back up what she said at the time. So it's not like she even like went back and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna say," not that. But if that's your claim, then that's even wrong too. Yeah, it is. It is. Listen, I'm partially Italian. I have Italian family. I'm friends with people who are European immigrants, as in people who lived in Europe, Spain, Italy, their entire lives and moved here later in life for work. I get the whole, people in Europe, Italy, they do the kiss on the cheek thing. These kisses are not even quite that. Like, there's no like making out type of kisses when we're talking about this. Like, this guy was like kissing people on the lips and shit too. Like, it's just like
That's not normal.
Yeah.
That's not normal or okay.
First of all, the European kiss on the cheek is usually like the two-side thing, but it's usually like
Right.
cheek to cheek. It's not like they're like...
It's an air kiss too,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's not like they're like totally like tongue in your cheeks here. You know what I mean? Like, really, I mean...
I can't deal with the excuses that he made. It's laughable. It's honestly laughable. It's not necessarily that surprising in this political era that we're in, where we have like people who are actual members of Congress, like, believing in the most absurd conspiracy theories like Marjorie Greene and whatnot. So this all fits perfectly into this era of politics, but I still don't think that, like, even if we're desensitized to the horribleness of politicians, we should never like look away. Like, things like this, like, it's unacceptable. There needs to be accountability. And if he's not impeached, which I feel like he has to be, but if he's not impeached, there should be protests outside of, the governor's mansion every single day until he's pressured to leave. Because if we accept this, like, if we allow politicians to be this overt, this like shameless, again, then I mean, we're going to get even worse figures down the line than someone like Andrew Cuomo if we enable this. So as a society, like, we have to at some point draw the line and stop tolerating these types of goals. It's never okay. The touching of people's faces, like, it's still shocking to me. Like, I can't believe he himself showed that video as if that would like make it okay. See, I touched everyone's faces. Yeah, you're kind of proving the point, because if you're that touchy-feely, then it's really easy to deduce that you might get even further with someone who you're attracted to because you're just touchy-feely. So you're proving our point for us, dummy. I can't. Like, I'm at a loss for words with these people.
Right. Let's talk about this now, because I didn't. Let's move on from Cuomo, because I'm sure I'll be talking about Cuomo even more too, just like COVID. But we're done with Cuomo for now. Let's move to this. Now, this is something I actually did not see before. I went on your channel and I'm looking at some of your recent stuff, and I saw this clip from Project Veritas where they ambush AOC. I have to say, this is one of the dumbest... and this is really saying something here, because Project Veritas routinely puts out some of the dumbest exposés out there. Really, the equivalent of not being an expose at all.
Right.
I don't even know how else to describe it. But here is Project Veritas ambushing AOC. And it is so stupid. Where is this clip? All right, here we go.
One more. I drove 1 hour, if I can, please.
Oh my goodness, yes, of course.
I drove 1 hour just to let you know that I am a journalist with Project Veritas.
Oh,
and I would
okay.
actually like to ask you about some commentary that you said
yeah,
about
okay,
us.
okay.
You
Sorry.
actually see that Charlie Chester from CNN was exposed as pushing propaganda and bias.
We were creating a story there that we didn't know anything about. So I think that's propaganda.
I noticed you didn't say anything about that, but you said something about us online.
Thank you so much.
Do you even live in the Bronx, in the neighborhood you claim you're from?
I think she lived here for a long time, so I don't know.
That's what I had heard, but we haven't seen her.
Yeah. Nobody saw her, no. Yeah.
Everyone in the community never seen her.
We investigated that. Turns out, actually, to be perhaps misleading. Thank you so much. Sorry, when an elected representative hides behind her fame and refuses to actually stand and be accountable, this is the only recourse we have. Project Veritas, we expose everyone, sir.
I mean, first of all, I gotta say, imagine doing that with an elected official, and the main question you ask, the first thing you ask is, do they have anything to say about CNN? What a fucking idiot. I mean, What? What, like, you could ask them about any policy, hit them on anything that you see as hypocritical that they do, or bring up any sort of thing that you are worried about. You know, he could have brought up, obviously I don't agree, but it would have made sense for him to ask what her opinion is on different COVID mandates, or maybe this was before Cuomo, but if it wasn't, then what she thinks Cuomo should do, and whatever. Why ask her about something CNN does? She has no say over CNN.
Yeah, these people have worms in their brains. The clip that I reacted to on my channel was the one that they tweeted out on their social media, where they show him ambushing her, saying, "I'm actually here from Project Veritas. I drove an hour away," and then it cuts to like the meme of the "got him," and I'm like, what's the gotcha here? The gotcha is that they don't want to talk to you because they know that your organization is completely fraudulent. And a point that I brought up is that like, these folks literally got busted trying to do a propaganda at the behest of Roy Moore throughout his scandal, because they sent an actress or someone to the Washington Post alleging that she was groped by Roy Moore. And so what they were expecting was that the Washington Post wasn't going to properly vet the story. But they did, and they found out that this individual was associated with James O'Keefe, founder of Project Veritas, and it blew up in their faces. But there's been no ramifications. I even saw, like, Tulsi Gabbard tweeted about Project Veritas and their ballot harvesting scandal. These people have no credibility. These are not serious people. So whenever a politician comes across one of these journalists, they should just laugh in their faces and walk away. And you saw, like, the big scandal was they were talking to like one of AOC's neighbor. So the allegation is maybe she doesn't live in the Bronx. Okay, assume all the bad things that they're alleging her about AOC. Let's assume that they're correct. Who cares? Is that like, I'm trying to figure out like what the actual scandal is. And truly, this is a news organization specifically just for stupid people, because if you are not able to see through propaganda that's this transparent, then I think I have to assume that you're stupid and you have a low IQ, literally. Like, even back, if you remember those Planned Parenthood videos from like 2015, 2016, you can see the very suspicious cuts. Like, they'd say something and then there'd be like a jump cut. And it was so obvious that they were getting taken out of context and that there was probably more to the story. It's laughable. I have to, like, part of me, like, not to get too conspiratorial, I feel like this is really astroturfed, because every time they release a video, it trends on Twitter. So, it's just, I don't understand how these folks are taken seriously. Well, I mean, I guess I do, because they're legitimized by Fox News and Newsmax and whatnot, but it's just nobody should take them seriously. And the stupidity that we saw there, it should be apparent to every single person with at least two brain cells to rub together. But I mean, this is America, so.
Right. I mean, Project Veritas is an organization, by the way, whose claim to fame was Acorn. And basically their expose on Acorn, which was basically a group that basically helped get out the vote. And their whole thing was that they basically let some, I honestly don't even remember exactly what it was. Something with that, remember that pimp video?
Yeah, I vaguely remember the Acorn stuff. I know that was when they got their,
it's
like,
been so long, honestly, that I'm forgetting a little bit of the. Okay, so they basically, yes, it was a advocacy organization for individuals of low and moderate income, and they did things like helping get out the vote and things like that. And they basically put together, Acorn registered people from Latino and African American communities. And in a video series recorded during the summer of 2009, they claimed to show Acorn employees helping individuals who came in. One was James O'Keefe, the founder, dressed up like a pimp. Like, literally like a cliche. Like, if you guys remember The Godfather in the WWE, like, literally dressed like that. Like, dressed like a cliche top hat. And they would come in and ask for help on human smuggling and child prostitution and tax evasion. And the videos would claim that Acorn tried to help them with their questions on how to get away with this stuff. it turned out, and this ended up closing. The government funding. Congress voted to freeze their funding and pull back on that, and then Acorn ended up closing up shop because they couldn't afford to run the organization anymore. What ended up happening after is that it came out that Project Veritas completely misrepresented the situation. All of the employees that they talked to at Acorn basically ended up reporting these people, O'Keefe in the pimp outfit, for example, to authorities to say, hey, well, this is what just happened here. They didn't really try to, let these guys get away with whatever they were claiming they were going to get away with. And in fact, one of the employees, former employees of Acorn, ended up suing Project Veritas, and she won the case. And basically, the employee ended up getting I'm sorry, it was a guy. I'm sorry. It was a Juan Vera. Ended up getting paid $100,000 in a settlement from Project Veritas because of how he was portrayed inaccurately in their video.
Yeah, it's the way that they operate is very, very transparent, and you don't even have to be media savvy to, I think, acknowledge the way that they misconstrue what people are saying. So the example that I gave is that like they wanted to get AOC to say something, just talk enough to where they can have enough to work with, so they can edit it out of context. So if she said something like, if they asked her, hey, AOC, what do you think about like murdering babies? Or they asked her about abortion or something. If AOC were to say, anyone who thinks we should kill babies should go to prison, they would then take that and clip it out to where she says, we should kill babies. And then they like sell that as AOC thinks we should kill babies. This is the agenda of the radical left. And so they're totally dishonest. And it's all about like the gotchas. And usually when we see gotcha politics, it is a real thing. But usually there's some degree of like legitimacy to the gotcha, where you ambush a politician and you get them to answer something that they refused to speak on before. But like this is totally like they just want you to talk enough so they can make you sound like you're saying something that you're not, intentionally so. And this deliberate like misconstruing of what people is saying, like this is the very thing that like conservatives accuse the left of doing. But here they're like celebrating this, and I don't think that they believe that Project Veritas is misconstruing it. They're they probably think that they're a journalistic outlet because they have money and funding and it looks professional if you watch one of their videos with the scary music and everything. But this organization is totally a sham organization, and the fact that people take it seriously, even members of Congress, it makes me think that we need to mandate media literacy courses at the high school level so people know what to look for when it comes to just basic propaganda, because like this is like the most obvious example of propaganda and bias that you can find.
Right. I'm thinking of some of the other. Do you remember the one where James O'Keefe dressed up like Osama bin Laden and crossed the border and claimed?
I don't remember that one.
Okay, so he dressed up like completely with an Osama bin Laden mask, and he found like a small creek at the border, and filmed himself crossing, like going into the creek and crossing the border, and he then recorded a video showing Border Patrol just watching him do that and not stop him from like a mile away or something. And he claimed that this shows how easy it is for terrorists to cross the border, when in fact what it shows is that why the fuck would any actual Border Patrol agent worry about Osama bin Laden crossing the border like a year or two after Osama bin Laden was killed? Like this was like in 2013 or something. Like, wasn't
it not even near the border too? Like if I'm remembering the story, it's kind of coming back as you explained. I feel like it wasn't actually the border. Am I misremembering that?
It could have been. It may have been. I don't remember reading that, but that's totally a possibility. I wouldn't put it past O'Keefe to not even be at the border.
Right.
And then on top of that, there's the most recent ones, the stuff they've been doing, where they basically get a local weather person, a local meteorologist, a local news meteorologist, I should say, to basically on air, while they're on air on the local news, start talking shit about the affiliate station they work for because they won't let them cover important information that they have. And I think like 2 or 3 meteorologists have been fired because they did this on they did this on the air for Project Veritas. After they get fired, Project Veritas takes them on tour with them to like CPAC and the other conservative conferences and starts like GoFundMes to raise money for these 3 who claim that they're like truth tellers blowing the whistle on their local news affiliate who won't let them talk about the important issues. And one of them was literally like, I wanted to cover Bitcoin, but the station manager wouldn't let me because they were like, the audience we serve at 5 p.m. is an elderly audience who would have no interest in this. And this right-wing meteorologist thought she was being, her important news is being stifled. She was being
Here's
censored.
one thing that I think the chat can take away, some red flags to look for, generally speaking. If you are watching somebody and they refer to themselves as a truth teller, if they talk about their high IQ, they're usually very dumb. They're usually full of shit. Things
Right.
to keep in mind. Anyone who has to brag about these things are usually not to be taken seriously. Smart people don't need to tell people that they're smart. Or people who are telling the truth don't need to reinforce the idea that they're truth tellers. So one thing to keep in mind for folks who aren't super media savvy, if you don't know what to look for.
Right. Me and Mike, by the way, are bald-faced liars. We have very, very low IQs. So that's how you can know you can trust us.
Hey, listen. Sometimes if I like remove these comically large headphones, you can see my brain goo melting out of my ears. That's how stupid I am. So you know to trust me there, or not to trust me.
Just get that checked, Mike. That's not good. All right. I think that's the show for today. But Mike, you want to stick around for the second half of the show, which basically means absolutely no change for live stream viewers on YouTube and Twitch. This is only a change for non-patrons who catch my show on replay, like via the podcast at doomedcast.com. Would you like to stick around?
I would love to. Can I run to the bathroom
No.
for the second half?
No, you should have worn your diaper. No, of course. In fact, while you do that, I'm going to hang up on you because I want to try to get my phone system working. Basically, I have a second Skype that I use so people can call into that number. And so they don't
nice.
Basically, so they don't interrupt this conversation I have, so they don't call into this number. But
okay.
I'm going to call into that other Skype. I'll hit you up on there, and then it should work as a 3-way call for people who call in. The Skype number is Doomed Live. Just open up Skype. This works for Mike's viewers, too, on Twitch.
Yeah.
Go to open Skype, type in Doomed Live. You can't use Skype Business, by the way. You have to use the original, like the regular Skype. I had an issue where I was having 2 guests on at the same time, and one of them was using Skype Business. Doesn't work for some reason.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Download regular Skype. If you don't already have it, you can download it for your phone or for your desktop or laptop or whatever. Doomed Live, search it. You can call in that way. We'll make that happen. Why don't you run to the bathroom now while I quickly thank my new patrons, and then we'll do it. We'll do it.
All right. Well, I'm excited. I'll be right back, folks.
All right, cool. Folks, to support this show, you go to patreon.com/Matt Binder. If you can afford to do so. If you cannot, totally understand. Really appreciate the help if you can, though. New patrons who've joined this who've joined the Patreon page since the last show on last week. Let me name drop them. I cannot thank them enough. Let me pull this up here. Let's see. We got Brett. Not Brett. Ben P. Phil. Carl L. Nathan W. and Jake T. Thank you, guys. And from the looks of it, it is all fellas. What's going on, ladies? Thank you for becoming a patron subscriber. I really appreciate it. Without your support, this show could not happen, to be quite frank. If you cannot financially afford to support this show, totally get it. Please take care of yourself, your family first. But you can support this show in a number of ways that cost you nothing. You can go to youtube.com/MattBinder, subscribe to the channel. Go to twitch.tv/MattBinder, subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media at Matt Binder, usually on Twitter and Instagram. That's who I am there, but search Matt Binder anywhere else, you'll find me, I'm sure. Doomedcast.com for the podcast version of this show. If you can leave an Apple Podcast review, I would really appreciate the support there. It does help people find this show. You can go to ratethispodcast.com/doomed, and that will basically get you to a list of places you could leave podcast reviews. If you're in the YouTube channel right now, I read super chats. Drop a super chat, youtube.com/MattBinder. That's just basically like a one-off payment. You leave a comment, it gets highlighted. I 100% read all super chat comments. And without any further ado, I'm going to go to the second half of the show, call back Mike. Stick around. I will be right back, seriously. For everybody else who's not watching on the live stream or is not a patron subscriber, I will see you next time on Doomed. All right, we are back. I cannot find Mike's Skype name on my other profile. This is weird. I can't find your Skype name on my other profile. What the heck? Where did he go? This is weird. What's going on here? Damn. Might have to abort this. Give me a second, though. As in abort doing the Skype with Mike. Not abort having Mike on the show, obviously. Why isn't his name showing up? That's weird. I'm going to sign out of that Skype name. Give me a second. Technical difficulties, they happen. You guys know how it is. Let me let him know on the other Skype. All right. Signing back into that one. Sorry, folks, for the delay, but I promise you it'll all be worth it. All right, back on the other one. Oh, there he is. Okay. Hello. There we go. I forgot to mention, because it sounded fine, it wasn't that big of a deal. I don't think your audio is coming through your microphone. It honestly sounded fine, so it wasn't that big of a deal. Wait 1 second. Sounds good. I mean, definitely sounds clearer, but it wasn't like the other one was just unclear.
Oh, okay. That's I'm gonna have to. I think it probably picked up the audio from my webcam, which is not what I want. So I'll have to like just disable that. My husband's been trying to tell me just disable it so it doesn't pick it up automatically, and I'm like, I will, and I haven't, but I'll need to do that.
So you lie. You lie.
Yeah.
You will, but you haven't. I'm just like that, dude. I say a lot of things. And
Right.
let's. If anyone wants to call in, feel free. We'll try to make sure if we could make this work. If it doesn't, we'll have to abort the call-ins. But let's see.
I didn't know that you could
doomed
do
live on Skype.
Yes, folks. Anyone on Twitch, please.
It should work. Usually I get a bunch of people calling it. What happens is that it takes a second for people to get it all going, and then all of a sudden I'll get like 5 calls at once. And of course, I can't take the 5 calls at once, so I take one. The others wait for me to finish, and then get 4 calls at once after that's done. And then it just keeps on going. All right, here we go. Let's see. This should work. Here we go. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from? Hello.
Hi, it's me.
Hey, do you hear them, Mike?
Yeah.
Look at that.
It's me and my bunny.
Wow.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name's Ken. I'm calling from Tallahassee, Florida.
Hey, Ken from Tallahassee, Florida. You got Matt and Mike on the line here. Ooh, that took me back. A different Mike, but
Yeah.
what did they talk about today?
So I wanted to ask, if you know about the gay frogs conspiracy theory.
Oh, Ken, are you sure you're just not disguising your voice and you're about to go, oh, I can't help myself anymore. I'm calling into Madam Mike here.
Yeah, no. Do you know anything about this like little rabbit hole?
I do know I recall it, but right now, if you ask me to explain it to you in detail, I'm drawing a blank. But it was some like scientific.
I can explain it. This is like
please go ahead.
This is like one of my favorite things to talk about, and I thought you guys would be kind of interested to hear about it. And I'm gonna all right. So I'll just start with obviously everyone knows about the famous Alex Jones rant where he's like, they're turning the frickin' frogs gay. They're putting chemicals in the water. And obviously he's a nut job and he's pretty much wrong. But there is a little seed of truth, which is that there's basically the second most widely used pesticide in the world is this thing called atrazine. And it's a really good pesticide, but it gets into the water and it's an endocrine disruptor definitely for reptiles, or I don't know. So there's this scientist named Tyrone Hayes, who is a hepatologist and endocrinologist who studied atrazine's effects on frogs. And he did this pretty comprehensive research where he looked at the genitals of frogs and found that if you expose frogs to atrazine, they basically become hermaphrodites and they become, infertile, so they can't reproduce. And so the company that makes atrazine, Syngenta, which is a huge agrochemical company, basically went after this guy, and they did a character assassination of this guy, and they said that he was kind of not a good guy, and I forget all the details of what they said, but there were these FOIA requests that found emails that showed Syngenta conspiring against this guy. And if you go down the rabbit hole, you see how, these scientists that do research on pesticide safety are the same scientists who go to work for the big chemical companies and publish research which kind of is dubious. It's questionably good research. They're kind of skewing their data to show that pesticides are safe, and then these people also go on to work for the EPA, and it's all just like this big cesspool of scientists working for the EPA and working for pesticide companies that are spreading this research that says that pesticides are safe. And then when someone kind of goes against that narrative, there's a smear campaign against them. So I don't know. It's just funny how this gay frogs thing, as absurd as it is, there, like with a lot of things Alex Jones says, there is a little kernel of truth there.
Right. We've when I was on the Majority Report with Sam Cedar multiple times. Back when I even worked there regular full time. Alex Jones brings up issues where there is a very clear antagonist, I guess you can say, and he makes sure that his audience is obscured from that real antagonist in lieu of whoever Alex Jones decides to make up is the bad guy in this scenario. No, there isn't a secret cave full of lizard people who are, really the Rothschilds and all this, and they're running a one world government, central bank, Federal Reserve conspiracy or whatever. No, that's not what the issue is is that there are major corporations who very, quite honestly, very transparently at times, because they know that there's nothing that could stop them, are basically pulling the strings by being able to pay through lobbyists to basically get the policies they want enacted. And we see this time and time again. You could just see just recently how Jeff Bezos basically lobbied. I'm not sure what ended up coming of it. I think it was blocked for now. But Jeff Bezos basically ended up lobbying to get a like $10 billion bailout or something like that for his space company because they didn't get picked for a big government NASA contract. And they were really counting on that money, apparently. I mean, that's just absurd. Like, you don't need to make up some like fake like boogeyman for this. Jeff Bezos standing right there. You were watching him on TV blast off into space. I mean, he couldn't be more transparent about what he's doing and who he is.
That's the thing about conspiracy theories, is that there always is like some kernel of truth that they're based off of, but people make a lot of logical leaps that they don't necessarily have enough evidence to make to use to go to that next step. And oftentimes, like people like Alex Jones, there's also some level of I don't know what it is. I don't know what the right word is that's appropriate, but he's off his rocker. So like he's already kind of crazy. So like he will fill in the blanks in like very strange ways. I'm curious though about like there was one conspiracy theory that he talked about that still makes me laugh. So if you Google Alex Jones fish people, I don't know if this is still up. He's telling the story of him, I think, being taken into this like government facility that's secret, and there are fish people like tapping on the glass, like mouthing "Let me out," and he's like crying almost as he explains this. And I want to know like if there is any like origin to that. I mean, some of it I'm sure he just completely fabricates out of thin air, but yeah, to Matt's point, I feel like there is so many like insane real conspiracies out there already that it's weird to me that people focus on like the weirdest, like Illuminati or like other just QAnon. You know what I mean? So yeah, it is fascinating though. Like after this year, like I've really taken an interest in like what gets people to believe in these things. And part of it is they kind of already have to be predisposed to be conspiratorial. Like they think conspiratorially, and there doesn't even have to be like a widespread conspiracy theory. They just think, oh, well, it's because of this. Like there may not be evidence, but they fill in the blanks. So like if we all got like yeeted out of this Skype call right now, if I was a conspiracy theorist, I think this is the CIA trying to shut me down. So you kind of already have to have that mindset to really believe some of the more kooky theories. But it's fascinating, like to think about the psychology of this, which I'm very interested in.
Well, yeah, like why would there be some group of people that wants to turn frogs gay? It just doesn't make sense. And like Alex Jones would say, it's like, oh, the soy boy thing, like they're trying to like, you know, wussify, like make everyone into these like feminized soy boys, and that's like kind of a right-wing conspiracy. But what it really is that our food system is just unsustainable, and it relies on these petrochemicals that just kill all the weeds and just create this monocrop. And it takes chemicals that get into the water, and then the reptiles which live in the water are whatever these pesticides do to them, just like who knows what effect they're having on us. Like these frogs are such tiny little creatures, like that a small amount of pesticide can have a huge effect on them. But like we're big, but you know, it could be having a small effect on us too. And if these companies are just trying to cover their asses and just get away with this stuff. And like with Roundup now, the president of Mexico banned Roundup, like, and they're phasing it out. And there's been all these huge settlements. Earlier this year, the Bayer, who now owns Monsanto, moved forward with settling basically all their class action lawsuits for Roundup causing, you know, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And like, so I went to the University of Florida and the horticulture department, and our professor was this guy named Kevin Folta. He was the chair of the department, and he's been on Joe Rogan's podcast before, basically shilling for Roundup, saying Roundup's perfectly safe. I would drink a pint glass of Roundup. He's actually said that, like, and he's not a toxicologist. He's a horticulturist. He shines lights on lettuce. That's what his research is. He doesn't know about cancer research, but he's out there shilling for these big ag corporations because our food system relies on these chemicals. Without these chemicals, the prices of commodities go way up. And that's just why they need to defend it, because of basically capitalism and profit. And they don't care about the human impact. And companies like Bayer will just shell out billions of dollars, and they're, I think, moving towards taking Roundup off the shelf to try to sweep this under the rug. And there's same thing with Syngenta. There's internal emails called like the Monsanto Papers, which basically won these lawsuits that show Roundup basically trying to cover up that they kind of had an idea that maybe this stuff isn't that great. And it's all just like muddying the waters and poisoning the well, because whenever a scientist goes against the narrative that one of these chemicals is safe, they just assassinate their character and just try to, like, say their study isn't replicable, and they try to replicate the study and it isn't replicable and all these things. And it's like I've spent hours researching Roundup because this is something I'm really interested in. And it really is hard to find research on either side because you don't know who's doing the research, and like it's just like a whole debacle. And like, I don't know if Roundup causes cancer, but I wouldn't drink a pint glass of it, So yeah, this is just like my favorite thing to talk about. But I'll get off the line now, and I appreciate you guys' commentary and your guys' show.
Oh, thank you so much for calling in. No, it was a great call. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Can we see the bunny one last time?
Yeah.
Oh wait,
if they went away, that's okay.
You're not on the. Do you mind me putting up
you
in the video?
Yeah.
All right, 1 second.
Here we go. Let's see.
There's the bunny. Aw.
So cute.
Mike, I think I posted her on your Twitter thread.
Oh, did you?
People. Yeah, you can check her out, and you can find my Twitter and find all of the arguments I have with Kevin Folta on Twitter. But yeah, no, Matt, you and Mike should both look into this guy, Kevin Folta, because I feel like you might get a kick out of this guy because of how much of a blatant shill he is.
All right, we'll do. Kevin Folta, you said?
Yeah, look into this guy. I mean,
okay.
He's like, he's just a frustrating dude.
All right.
I'll go on your Twitter. I'll follow you. I'll look for the bunny, and I will follow
my Twitter's called Bimmy Bunny, or like it might be misspelled. But
okay, I'll take a look.
Mike says he's gonna follow the rabbit. That never goes wrong. That never goes bad. Just
follow the rabbit.
Next thing you know, Mike is on back on my show talking about, hey Matt, did you ever read those Podesta emails? Did you know there's a pizza place that
they keep talking about cheese pizza, Matt, and you're not understanding me. This is really serious.
Thanks for the call, Ken. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys have a good one.
Take care. Too.
All right. Now this is the fun part. I get to see how this is going to work, where someone else hangs up and they should be out. Let me see. Oh, I could remove them from the chat here. Remove. And they're out. And someone else could call in now.
There's a lot of pet pictures.
Let me we had a bunch of missed calls actually during that call. So
okay.
People are definitely waiting to call in.
So in that pet picture thread that he was referring to, where he posted the bunny,
we got a caller. Let me just grab this real quick.
Go ahead.
Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's your boy Msetti calling from New York as always.
Hey, Msetti, how you doing?
Pretty good. Actually, to tell the truth, today is a most excellent day. I bring you felicitous tidings of deep echoings and rumblings of dissatisfaction from within the far esoteric deep right.
Oh, what's going on?
So there's an individual, pseudonymous, whatever, individual called Bronze Age Pervert. Are you?
Oh, are you the person who called in about this Bronze Age pervert previously?
I might have mentioned him when I was talking about Owen's Cyclops. I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, you did. Yep, that's
okay. Yeah, so Bronze Age Pervert has been, that name is just so awkward to say, but so he's been banned. So I think he was initially suspended and then he was banned. And I have seen a lot of people expressing huge dissatisfaction. I mean, you search
what was he banned for? Do you know? From Twitter, you're talking about, right?
Yes. I don't know specifically. He has a very large following of people who are very upset about his. He had 75.5K followers.
All right, that's a healthy number. Mike,
pretty respectable.
Mr. Humanist Report over here has got more, but
oh, well done.
Yeah, I don't.
Dropping every day.
Mood, even though I have way less. So his I guess to kind of suggest what he was banned for. Travel with me, if you will, away from the cubicles of the bugmen, who are his antithesis, to the sunny shores of the Italian Mediterranean. Imagine a goat roast upon the beach with red-roofed, white-walled houses behind, and there's a man flexing his biceps in a Speedo, and a woman is sitting upon his arm. That's kind of the world of Bronze Age Pervert. It's this atavistic, sort of primitivistic, fascist, ultra-masculinist, anti-bugman, anti-gay, atavistic is a very good term, ideology about very hardcore masculine anti-gynarchy is a word that he uses, anti-gay. It's very pro bodybuilding. And the reason he really hasn't been banned before is because he disguises a lot of his irony posting about, well, he's extremely ironic. This is like the deep intellectual alt-right. And so, I mean, it's very, I'm familiar with philosophy, and his writing style is extremely Nietzschean. He writes like Nietzsche. He takes so many points from Nietzsche. So he disguises it in a lot of intellectual stuff, and that makes it very hard for people to process, let alone, report to Twitter to ban. And a lot of it is also just disguised in this whole bodybuilding aesthetic thing. Like half of it's like an Instagram stuff, and he like retweets people like using hashtag frog Twitter, like bodybuilders. It very like Identity Europa. I used to see, before that kind of got squashed down on, I used to see a lot of crossover between those two.
Right. Yeah, I never really followed many of these guys. Also because for the very reason that you're saying, their whole angle of keeping it philosophical. It means that their audience is also relatively small and niche. I mean, like you said, 75,000 Twitter followers. Sure, that's a healthy number, but I mean, it's not really. If you ask people on the street who they know, Bronze Age in terms of like right-wing pundits or personalities.
But here's the thing: he had White House staffers in the Trump administration reading his book.
Right. I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all. And I'm not saying he's not someone to pay attention to. I'm just saying that's sort of why I guess he never really came on my radar.
He is relatively like small potatoes compared to people like I guess the most well-known person I'd kind of relate him to is Fuentes, because they're kind of like both have a foot in the, well, Fuentes is Groypers, but like Bap definitely has like his toes in the Groyper pool and pulls a lot of people from that kind of thing. It's odd. I don't really have all the words to articulate it. But yeah, he has like there's already been articles written by Breitbart, Russia Today, Revolver.news about his being banned. He mostly moved to Telegram at this point. And he also said like Posobiec, Cernovich, and Darren Beatty have all shown him their tweets supporting him and crying out against his banning. And you search like BAP on Twitter, and you find so many people who've changed their username and their avatar to him. And I think it's really nice that he's been banned, at least, I mean, maybe temporarily, maybe not, because he's just like, I really do get the sense that he's part of this iceberg that is just not really readily understandable to most people. And I had a thought, I lost it. I'm sorry.
No, I'm gonna definitely get someone on this show to talk about people like Bronze Age Pervert, because they definitely think they're worth talking about, and I do know that there is a niche that he serves, and I have seen that apparently there are some I hesitate to call them leftists, but red brown folks who listen to this show, apparently his show. So definitely someone on my radar. And you called in a while back and put him more deeply on my radar, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, the weirdest thing I think is just that he's fascist in everything but the major fascist points. You know, he doesn't overtly advocate for racism. He doesn't overtly advocate for a lot of this stuff. I mean, it's kind of like the art of masculinity taken to an extreme. And so for a lot of people, it might just totally fly under the radar. And I think that's why it's survived. But it's like when you like know you're fascist, you're like, wait a second, this is just leaving out. It's like shrimp scampi without the shrimp. It's still freaking scampi, you know?
Right. Right. And no one knows who he is, right? He's a complete anonymous individual.
No, and I've been following for years, and he's never let it on. I think the most revealing thing he's done is had a podcast so you can hear his voice.
Right.
But yeah, no, he's totally anonymous, which is definitely an achievement in and of itself.
Right.
It's hilarious because in his Telegram chat, he's like complaining about these people who are paid by, I'm not sure if he said Soros funded money, but he might have said something that was basically like that, but more intellectual, about like how these people are paid $30,000 a year to report him and like keep tabs on people like him. It's ridiculous. When then he just like immediately goes to link stuff about like, you know, Russia Today and Revolver.news and Breitbart having articles about him, and then saying Posobiec, Cernovich, and Beatty they've all shown him their tweets supporting him and his cause.
Right.
It's very, very ironic.
Right. Thanks for the call, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Have a great
Stay
night.
Cool.
Peace.
You too.
All right. Feel free to call in. Next caller. Again, go to your Skype app, open it up, obviously. Type in Doomed Live, and you will find the username to call. It's absolutely free to call into the show. Let me read a super chat really quick. Midnight Pizza Man with a super chat. Got banned from Twitter. My Dave Rubin heel turn begins. Oh, right. Didn't Dave Rubin get temporarily suspended from Twitter or something like that? And he had a complete meltdown over it.
Yeah. He's going to take him down now.
Ooh. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. Nothing. Samantha Sider with a super chat. I'm masked and vaxxed, but not feeling good about Delta. Yes, there's definitely... I mean, you could feel good in terms of you will... very much most likely not get very sick if this was to reach you because you are vaccinated and you're taking precautions.
Yeah.
We got a caller here. Let's see. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, hey. Wow, I actually got through. Holy crap. My name's David, and I'm from Jersey.
Hey,
New Jersey.
David from Jersey.
Hey.
What would you like to talk about?
So I got 2 pills. I'm gonna propose to you guys 2 pills, kind of like how Morpheus gave Neo the 2 pills. One is a doomer pill, but it's related to video games. Another one is a hope pill, and it's related to Kyle Kalinske. So do pick.
Whoa, run this by me again. I'm a little bit lost.
So we have 2 pills. We have one related to a game developer that I deeply love, and a game that's going to come out for next gen and current gen gaming this coming season, for like October, November, like the holiday season. And then the next one is the hope pill, because the gaming one's a kind of a doomer pill. and that one's Kyle Kalinske that I watched today. And it's a hope pill.
I want both of them.
Oh, I know. I thought about this. I thought
We
of
can only
all the
pick
things I
one,
wanted
though?
to talk about.
I don't take pills, so I would have to pass both on both of them.
I just take them all.
I'm straight edge, so that's always been my. I don't take the red pill or the blue pill. I don't take any pills. Nope, sorry.
Well, these are see-through pills, so you don't know the color nor the taste.
Oh, I'm interested in the Doomer video game, honestly, because it might be a game that I have on my radar too.
Oh yeah, so I have to yet to get the Xbox One Series X, and that's what I want to get because this game is going to have 128-man servers, and it's Battlefield 2042. And DICE has been one of my favorite developers since like Bad Company 2. So they made bad games and had bad releases, but 2042's universe or world building is really interesting because it's like the ultimate bad ending for humanity because it's like, okay, so basically humanity is going down the toilet basically because there are millions of refugees all over the planet. There are refugees because of climate change. The countries have built like sea walls, the whole shebang, the whole 9 miles. We've had to adapt to climate change. Guys, we have lost. Our socialist project has failed. We have to adapt to climate change completely. And the world's going down a third world war. And these climate refugees are now the main soldier for literally every army on the planet. And they have to fight this global war. And it's literally like, I don't know, some doctor that's been given an AK and said, yeah, no, just go out and like shoot the Russians over there. Yeah, just go blast them. And then he gets immediately mowed down. It's Battlefield 2042. That is the premise. And it is so depressing because my friend who I was playing with today was like, yeah, David, like 2042 is basically where we're going. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, oh God, he's right. Oh my God, he's right. He's right. Oh my God, this is terrible. This is insane. Well, yeah, that's the Doomer pill.
All right.
I didn't know that was the premise of 2042, but I'm interested now.
For Mike, you might be interested because there is a story cinematic thing coming out. I think the 13th or the 13th or something like that. It's like a 9 or 12-minute cinematic that's like going to show like what's going on, and then they're also releasing like these little stories about these refugee military guys.
I am so out of my element. and judging by my audience's chats, they are totally out of their element here too.
Oh yeah, I would totally recommend maybe looking this up because it's a really good game. The mechanics are gonna be crazy, but like the story behind it is like utterly depressing. It's like we have completely failed to adapt to the current situation which is presented to humanity, which is climate change. And we are yet going to fight essentially water wars and resource wars, essentially, because as always, I guess gaming companies, or I guess in this case DICE, is like completely unoriginal in like who we're fighting this time, because again, it's Russia. And I guess this is why personally for me, I never really got Russiagate because I shot too many Russians throughout all the Call of Duties and Battlefields. I kind of shot too many of them, so I kind of got like bored of like Russia's the main bad guy now, and I'm like, oh, it's Russia again. Okay, all right, whatever. Okay, fine, I guess. Yay, Russia. So I kind of got like bored of like Russia being the bad guy when Russiagate happened, but that's the whole other story.
Right. Well, thanks for the call.
Oh wait, do you want me to go with Hope Pill though?
What's that?
Hope Pill.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Well, okay, so. Another thing about me is that I'm actually an Amazon worker. No joke, I actually am.
Oh, okay.
I work at the warehouse at Teterboro. That's all I'm gonna say. You can probably look it up and find it on Google Maps, honestly. But I think the video that Kyle did was that the Teamsters were going to essentially just challenge Amazon to a duel and fight them 1v1 and try to unionize them. And I'm hopeful. That is the Hope Pill. I'm hopeful as an Amazon worker.
You know what? Then I'll take, being that you just how you just described it now, I will take the Hope Pill specifically in solidarity with Amazon workers.
Oh
me
yeah,
too.
yeah. Me being an Amazon worker, I've worked at my warehouse for 3 years. Yeah, no, it's sorely still needed, even at my warehouse. And oddly enough, management is like incredibly lax. So long as like, well, it depends on the managers, but as long as you get the work done, they generally sometimes don't care really. Some of them are cooler than others, but still, there's like the insanity of like, yeah, you're like lifting packages that are like genuinely heavy. Like I'm talking like bed frames, like steel twin size, queen size bed frames, and you're lifting these suckers up essentially not by yourself because of COVID.
Right.
And you're loading them into like these massive boxes that we had to cut open. And like it's just crazy. It's insane. So
thanks for the call. Really appreciate it, especially that second part with the your experience as an Amazon worker, which I guess speaks to me more than the video game talk.
Oh yeah,
but
I'm intrigued by all of it. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting. Thank you.
All right. Well, have a good one, and I'll be watching your stream.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
I'll see you guys around.
Take care.
All right. Next caller. I'm thinking we'll take maybe 2 or 3 more calls, depending on how long the calls go. And then there's one more topic I want to talk with you before we end today's show, if that's cool.
Sure, absolutely.
Next caller, feel free to call in. I will, while we wait, read a super chat. Oh wait, we already got callers. Let me see. Let me take this caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, is it me?
It is you. Hello?
It is, yes, sorry, my computer's being a little goofy. It's Kowalski from Nebraska.
Hey, Kowalski. Didn't you say, or am I getting my weeks messed up? Weren't you going to be out this week or something? Weren't you going away?
That was last week.
Last week,
I
okay.
went to Vegas.
How was it?
Nice.
It was actually pretty fun. Spent way more money than I probably should have doing things that weren't exactly kosher. But actually,
you know what they say though, what happens in Vegas is immediately disclosed on my live stream. So
exactly.
Feel free.
Actually, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that I noticed with the drought down there, because, you know, being the ag guy, I like to keep up with what's going on. And so Lake Mead is currently sitting at the lowest it has been since they actually filled the dam back in 36. The super drought down there has been just absolutely devastating. And I just wanted to bring this up because this actually kind of makes sense with the previous caller. Back in 2019, the Joint Chiefs of Staff sent a report to Congress basically stating that by mid-century, they do believe that major conflicts between global powers will be next to impossible because they will be predominantly preoccupied relocating internal refugees, fighting fires, and getting people out of floods.
Right.
They also expect to lose 80% of our naval bases by then because of either the groundwater becoming compromised, the bedrock giving out as the oceans acidify, and a whole host of other issues. And that basically the United States and China will likely never actually witness a war with one another because their military is also going to have to help relocate about 200 million people, and by mid-century, we'll have to relocate 20 million people. So I'm kind of, horrifying if you think about it. But the fact that this is like on the radar of our leaders and they're not doing much is just frankly horrifying.
Right. I mean, we can just keep kicking that can down the road, Kowalski. No big deal. I mean, where there's a will, there's a way, right? I mean, we don't need to talk about this right now. It's not that important. I mean, it is stunning. Like we know these things, and I mean, you don't need to talk about this report that you're bringing up. We could talk about the reports from decades ago, where ExxonMobil knew about the ramifications of global warming, climate change, knew that they were a major contributor to it, and just was like, we didn't, what? Global warming, climate change, that's the thing, what? I mean, literally, they knew about this shit, and they didn't care. They just didn't care. They did the work even to find out about it. It was their own...
Their research was actually more accurate because the public research has to be conservative in order not to get backlash from conservatives. But their models actually proved to be far more accurate. They were far less optimistic, and it turns out they were correct to not be optimistic whatsoever.
Right, and the one thing to do when you have research done and you get information that tells you how to behave or act in a certain way in order to avoid what your research says could happen when we're talking about something that's bad, is to ignore everything the research tells you and just keep on trucking. Just keep on doing what you're doing, raking in those profits, and I won't be around. That's what they probably said. I won't be around. Hell, even maybe my kids won't even really deal with it either.
Well, their mindset is probably make as much money as possible, buy real estate in Alaska, and they'll be the ones to get to wait it out, and they'll just let the rest of us burn.
Right. Well,
or flood
wouldn't really be waiting it out, right? At this point, I mean, there is no waiting it out. Like, it would just be, I mean, I guess what they would wait out would be like whatever unrest or revolution would happen. But in terms of like the actual nature, like natural events occurring, there's no waiting that out. That's gonna be what it's gonna be.
Yeah, I want to recommend this article from Hamilton Nolan. It's from the Guardian. It's titled "Our Leaders Look Climate Change in the Eyes and Shrug," and it's basically about the G20 summit, which I don't think many people even knew took place. I haven't seen a single segment in any news outlet about this except for like print media. But it's basically about how incompetent leaders are around the globe and how they're kind of patting themselves on the back about like what they say they accomplished at this meeting, when in actuality it's like, a kid on the Titanic showing their parent that they like solved some math equation as the ship is like sinking. It's a really, really good article, and it was very cathartic to read. I would highly recommend it because it's it makes you feel a little less crazy, and that other people acknowledge obviously that like we're not equipped. We're not ready for what's coming.
The thing that I just don't quite understand is like going and seeing the Hoover Dam. That project was like 20 years in the making. The guy, the doctor behind it, who actually I think the lake Mead is named after, never even got to live to see this thing. And it's kind of like when they built cathedrals, back in medieval Europe. These guys set themselves to a project that they never, expected to live to see the end of. Like, we have the ability to fix all of this, even if it's not going to be fixed in our lifetime, even if we're not going to see, the major benefits from it, but it'll benefit people down the line. And like, it seems like in the early 20th century, we had this like mindset that we needed to, come together. And it's just like, the neoliberal hellhole just wants you to be, you're just this individual automaton walking through the ether and, enjoy it while you have it, because it doesn't matter what you do in the end. Just, have fun for the ride. And I don't know, it just seems like a nihilistic and horrible mindset that hopefully the next generation, especially spurred on by these natural disasters, will, either become the new leaders or force leadership to change. But hope springs eternal.
On that Hamilton Nolan article, I mean, he's a great writer, but that headline I think is wrong. It's not our leaders look at, climate change and shrug. It's they're literally doing the Rorschach thing from The Watchmen, where our leaders are looking at climate change and they're saying, No. I mean, it's like they're literally just like trying to deny that it's like they're not just shrugging it. Shrug would be like, "Oh, I'm not looking at the research. I'm not looking at this." Like, no, they know the problem, and they're just going like a little kid who's told to do something. They're told why they need to do it, why it's good for them, and they'll just look at you and say, "No." Like that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thanks for the call, Kowalski. Always a pleasure when you call in. You always bring such great conversation. In your, really, honestly, everyone in the chat knew it was you because you have quite the perfect, like, I don't, is it a radio? We have a very specific voice. It is a bit of a radio voice.
I would say I've got a very specific voice. Whether or not it's one people like to hear, I'm not entirely sure.
Well, I think judging by everyone in my chat, shouting your name with exclamation points, Kowalski, when they heard
even
your
my
voice.
chat. My chat recognized your voice too.
Yeah. If you don't know Kowalski's a regular caller into the Majority Report and always brings great conversations like this. And also, he's like a legit, like real deal farmer who on his YouTube channel uploads these crazy videos showing you like just how far farming has come in via technology. Like, I think people think of farmers, they're picturing like, old MacDonald, E-I-E-I-O. No, like this shit is crazy. Like the technology
I gotta check this out.
that Kowalski has.
Prairie fire.
Yeah, go ahead.
Prairie fire.
Name drop what it is.
Subscribe. Tell your friends. Share.
I'm subscribing right now.
It is.
Well, I really do appreciate it. Also, I do love the Humanist Report, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, it's.
I do want to say, if you get the subscription right now from Humanist Report, from Mike right now, Kowalski, then you are one up on me. I don't think Mike is subscribed to my
I'm subscribed to you. I subscribe to you. What the
Are
hell?
you sure? Are you sure? Because I can look and I can tell you right now if you are. I'm gonna check right now.
Okay, let me.
Wait! Don't do anything yet. Don't do it. Drop it. Drop it.
I swear to, because unless you have a different YouTube channel.
Drop it. No, you're not subscribed.
I'm gonna
to
prove
me.
it.
Nope, you're not subscribed. I could do a screen share right now and call you.
Okay,
out.
Look at my phone. I don't know if you can see that. I'm gonna boom it. Subscribe.
Higher.
Oh wait, wrong camera.
No, that's even lower than it was.
Bring
before.
it back just a little bit and go up.
That's weird because okay, you don't make your subscriptions public. Oh, okay, that's the thing. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you should make them public and let all your channel viewers know that. Because you know how you could make that little. I'm telling you how to run your channel. You should put my channel under that tab where you recommend channels. There you go.
I don't have the recommended tab anymore because I wanted to add another playlist, but I'll bring it back because I deleted a couple of playlists, so I'll have to add you, Matt.
All right, there you go. All right. I never realized that little addend that there's a little footnote because it lists as a YouTube creator, you can see all the channels that subscribe to you, and you could also put them in the order of subscriber count, and so it's really easy to find if a bigger channel is following you, subscribe to you. I mean, but
I didn't know that mine weren't public.
One little footnote is that apparently it says right here, only includes users who have made their subscriptions public. So there you go.
I learned something today. I did not know that I even had that as a setting.
Oh, Kowalski's still on the line. Thanks for the call, Kowalski.
Yeah, thank you, Kowalski.
Yep, you guys have a good one. And remember, plant gardens.
Oh,
well, that will be a very valuable tool in the near future.
If I had room for a garden, I would. But we do have plenty of
there's
potted
room
plants.
in Nebraska, and we're getting 5G here soon. Just like you need to get away from the millions once the water shortages hit.
Right. I honestly have been looking at. It's been.
Don't actually move to Nebraska.
Maybe not Nebraska, but maybe like slightly out of New York City, just because. Shit's getting
I hear the
expensive.
leadership in Buffalo's about to improve, and with that, I will leave you.
Buffalo's a little bit too far away from New York City for me. Thanks a lot, Kowalski. Take care. Let me take this caller. This person's been trying to call in for quite a while, so let me take their call right now. Uh-oh. For some reason, I cannot bring them into the call. Why is that? Try calling in again. If you're on Skype business or whatever it's called, you will not be able to call in because I can't do the three-way. Everyone else who's called in so far, I've been able to bring into this group. But I have this user I was not able to. Try calling back in now. No, I cannot bring you into the call for some reason. You're the first person I've seen this for. I'm so sorry. You've been trying to call in multiple times. I feel bad. If you can figure out why that's going on, I don't know why.
Or
that's
maybe
happening.
switch it if you are in business. That's such a weird thing. You'd think it wouldn't make a difference.
Yeah, but apparently you can't. Yeah, for everyone else, I was able to press the button to bring them in, but I can't do it for this guy or gal.
That's weird.
No, it's not working. I'm letting them know.
This is a lot of fun, though. It really makes me want to do call-ins. I just have to figure out.
See, someone else is calling. Someone else is calling in right now, and oh no, don't use web.skype. Use the app. Download the app. Let me take this person while the other person downloads the app. Because this person I could bring them right in. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from? You are on the air. I can see you in the chat. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
G'day, Matt. G'day, Mike. It's John calling from Australia. How you doing?
John from Australia. How are you? I'm doing pretty good. How about you, Mike?
I'm doing fantastic. I love your accent.
Well, thank you. We've all got one here. They serve us pretty well.
I was talking about Matt. No, I'm just kidding. No,
yeah, just decided.
Hey, look, I wanted to call you out. Mike, I can't speak for, but Matt, I wanted to call you out. I wanted to call out Majority Report, and I wanted to call out all the rest of the people who are sort of talking about the alt-right and the periphery and that sort of thing. There was some big news that happened on the 1st of August, and it's shaken the anime community to its core.
Well, what happened? I missed this. I'm not a big anime guy.
So a writer by the name of Chiaki J. Konaka recently came back out of sort of the shadows and wrote a sequel to a much loved series called Digimon Tamers. The sequel was not in the form of an animation; it was in the form of a live sort of production with a voice cast and stuff. And surely, I imagine both of you are familiar with the Digimon franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard of it. I've always looked at it as sort of I've always looked at it as sort of like it felt like a Pokemon ripoff. I'm sure I'm gonna get tons of shit for that.
Kind of, yeah. Look, I'm not gonna shame you for not being a massive Digimon head. Look, I'm not a massive Digimon head myself, but I'm across this stuff. So they did this live performance at Digifest in Tokyo on the 1st of August. It was only a little 15-minute piece on stage with some, decent production with some music and everything. But the enemy that all of the characters were fighting in this radio production wasn't another Digimon or a bad guy or anything. The enemy was extreme political correctness.
Really?
What? Yes.
And what? Give me some examples of what this entailed here in the story.
Oh, in the story, they actually got up to the point where they were about to battle this political correctness, and then they said, "Oh, next time on Digimon Tamers, blah blah blah." They kind of ended the radio play there, but it kind of like threw everyone through a loop, because all of these talking points that were coming up were like alternative fact checkers are dismissing alternate opinions. Social media is determining who's right and who's wrong and banning people for having opinions and stuff. So everyone's like, what? Where is this coming from? Like, this is a series for kids. Where is this coming from? So people start digging through this guy's blog, this writer, so Chiaki J. Konaka. He's about 60 years old, and people start poring over these blog posts. And they're all in Japanese. He doesn't speak English, so people are having to translate pieces of it using like Google Translate. There's some people who have kindly offered to actually translate them. And let me read you a couple of pieces of it so that you can get a kind of an idea of what we're talking about here. He talks about a gentleman by the name of James Corbett, who was banned from YouTube in 2020.
That name sounds very familiar. It sounds very familiar.
So James Corbett was a YouTuber who he called his work open source research, open source journalism, big on New World Order stuff, big on I think the blog posts that Konaka writes, he refers to James referring to COVID-19 as COVID 9/11. I believe that James Corbett's also, to a degree, a 9/11 truther. All of this stuff.
Oh right. He had that. I mean, the name was the Corbett Report. I recall this now. Yeah.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
He got banned last year, I think, but that he then went on to say that was my whole plan. I wanted to get banned from YouTube. He's not owned. He's not owned. A couple of other talking points that he mentions in these other blogs going back the last few months is that he stopped watching mainstream media in 2020. Completely stopped watching it. He doesn't trust doctors. He doesn't trust medical organizations. He finds it highly suspicious that Google and Gmail and YouTube went down around the time of the 2020 US election. And he's talking about the Great Reset.
Of course.
So this is something that like the anime sort of like sphere hasn't really had to deal with. Hasn't really had to deal with people like being completely off the rails pilled, partially because they don't, like a lot of them are from the United States, from Europe, from Australia, don't speak Japanese, can't read Japanese. They're not exposed to a lot of the sort of the raw opinions of the creators, that the people that they follow, and ultimately they're not aware of things like J-Anon and Kiwami, Japan Flynn, and all this stuff, right? And yeah, I kind of just wanted to let you know and get that out there that like, and like people, even writers of anime are going completely off the rails and using beloved children's programs to inject their Facebook boomer posts about how they're being cancelled or whatever.
Wow. That makes me sad because I just got into anime this year because my Twitch chat recommended some animes. So I love it and I don't want it to be ruined, so I will avoid that.
Oh, there's a lot of weirdos in anime, man. I hate to burst your bubble, but there's a. I mean,
yeah. I haven't watched a lot, but
I mean, you're in for it when someone with an anime avatar at you on Twitter. You know what I mean?
Oh God.
It's kind of fascinating. There's a fascinating history behind it too, because like it's very easy to look at like the product of like you look at Japanese animation and go like, oh well, this is just media, right? Well, actually, this is media that comes from a place that has a history, and the creators have a history. Everything is political, right? Like, so if you look back at like the 1960s, 1970s in Japan, there was a massive policing of universities, and like university students would actively strike against like the teachers at colleges and push for change and that sort of thing in these universities, to the point where like the government sent the police into campuses and all this stuff. So there's this whole political history going on behind the scenes, and the people who grew up in those institutions are the people who are creating these works now. So it's very easy to view them like completely bereft of any sort of history around them. But my point here is that we've reached an era now where previously the people who are working on these things remember those events of those crackdowns in the universities, of the Japanese Communist Party and labor movements and all that sort of stuff. that was in like the 80s and 90s. They were creating. Now we've got a new wave of creators coming in who don't remember those events, who weren't part of them at all. And there's this increasingly prevalent strain of like militarism, nationalism, and that sort of thing going on, woven through the plots of all these narratives that are coming out now. So it's particularly interesting. A lot of people will say that anime has been right wing for quite some time, and it's something that's pretty interesting to sort of keep in the back of your mind when you're looking at this stuff.
That is interesting.
Right.
Yeah, definitely look into the history of labor movements and student protests in Japan in the 60s, I think it was, and the impact that it had on media that was created subsequently. Very interesting. But yeah, the reason I'm aware of this stuff is because I'm in the middle of writing a video essay about an anime series that came out in 1998, sorry, called Serial Experiments Lane. And it's just so happens that series is about the internet, and it's about being radicalized, in my view anyway, about being radicalized by groups on the internet. And the writer of that series is Chiaki J. Kanaka, the guy who in 2021 is going absolutely off about political correctness and has been completely radicalized by all of these QAnon talking points in 2020. So it's kind of annoying that I have to like completely like upend the essay and insert all of this extra new context. But I thought
what's your YouTube? Because I want to see the essay when it's out.
I literally haven't started yet. This will be the first video that I put out.
Okay.
I'll start making noise about it when it eventually comes out, when I get the channel up and running. But
okay.
Yeah, definitely share it with me so I could.
I'm curious.
Before I let you go.
Over now, so,
before I let you go, I let you go, I gotta ask, how is the COVID situation in Australia?
This was, if you didn't want to hear about the anime stuff, this was the thing I was going to bring up. It's kind of interesting. So we're at the present, we're experiencing Melbourne, Australia is going into its, I think, 6th lockdown now. Their case numbers aren't too bad, but Sydney, Australia at the moment.
What entails what entails a lockdown there?
Oh, a lockdown is a lockdown. Like we don't fuck around when it comes to lockdowns. Lockdown.
No one's going out. Like, restaurants closed. Stores closed.
No. So the only reason to leave home is to buy like essential supplies. If you're going to like, you can't go out and buy DVDs and stuff. Not going to happen. That doesn't fly. The lockdowns, to the credit of
first of all, what year is it in Australia where you're going out and buying DVDs?
DVDs are still actually pretty big here for some reason. I'm actually not 100% sure why, but yeah, DVDs are still a pretty big deal. On top of that, I think it's the streaming services we have access to here. Like a lot of licensing agreements don't really extend to Australia, so it's the media, streaming media landscape is fairly atomized. So DVDs are still really, really popular. But yeah, the Victoria, the state of Victoria, the city of Melbourne, the capital of the state of Victoria, has gone into hard lockdown. Sydney, which is the capital of New South Wales, it's not the capital of Australia. That's Canberra. But it's the biggest city in Australia. Is not going into as hard a lockdown as they should, and their case numbers are slowly climbing. I think we're at 300 new cases today, or 290 something new cases today. It's frustrating because like our Prime Minister, the equivalent of the President, our Prime Minister has said, last year was attacking the state of Victoria and saying, hey, you don't need to lock down. It hurts the economy. Do what Sydney does. Sydney's not locking down. That's fine. And now it's reached the point where the Prime Minister's saying, oh, whatever Sydney doing, that's good, because the state of New South Wales is a Liberal state, and the state of Victoria is a Labor state, and the Prime Minister is a Liberal Prime Minister. So kind of pandering towards the party and that he's aligned with.
Right. Well, none of that happens here, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, hell,
Just
the
quickly-
fact that you guys have been going on multiple lockdowns is incredible because, you know, the lockdown here was, what was it, March and April of last year, and it'll never, ever happen again in my lifetime. I guarantee it.
Really?
It would have to be another generation, like literally multiple generations will have to die off. Enough so that they barely remember the oldest generation barely remembers this previous lockdown for this country to ever institute a lockdown down again, because it has been so, like, they won't even like go back to mandates. Like, it is completely we are a country of people who simply refuse to be told what to do. They want their freedom. And, like, you know, here in New York City, Bill de Blasio, the mayor, just basically said they're going to institute. You have to prove that you got vaccinated if you go into any indoors anywhere, and that has caused an outrage as well. So who knows how? And that's just one. That's just New York City. That will never happen in the majority of places in this country. Because they just wouldn't allow it. They just wouldn't allow that to happen because you'd be telling somebody how to live their life, and we can't do that.
Yeah, that's the party that we've got in power at the moment. It would be the sort of, like, I guess if I had to make an analog, the party in power, the Liberal Party here, is the equivalent of the Republican Party, except as far as like the as far as the comparison would go, like, our Liberal Party is still probably to the left of your Democratic Party, in that our Liberal Party, like, is to a certain degree, like, pro national healthcare and pro national programs and all that sort of stuff. It's just that they want crappy ones that fall apart and are underfunded, and ultimately they can sell them off later for profit to the private enterprise. But the fascinating thing and the biggest takeaway from Australia's approach to the pandemic has to be our vaccine response, which was last year, when all of the nations were organising their vaccines, like going, all right, we're going to buy this and we're going to put our orders in for vaccines. Our government put in orders for 2, Pfizer and AstraZeneca. And they tried to get, there's reports that they tried to get the best deal that they could possibly get, and haggling and trying to get the price down. And they didn't put in as many bids for Pfizer, and they mostly went with AstraZeneca. Then, as the program started rolling out and all the news started coming out of the whole the AstraZeneca, the risk of blood clots and all that sort of thing and whatever, the government was completely botched the messaging, completely failed to get control of it. It was all basically a massive media free-for-all, in that the media were able to basically just say things like, oh, does it cause the blood clots? Is it a really big deal? Who knows? They were able to essentially turn it into, like, a story, turn it into drama. And the government was completely, like, just the messaging on it was completely stuffed. So we've got a whole bunch of our population now who are like, well, is AstraZeneca safe? Do I take it? And ultimately, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's safe, right? But, like, nobody here knows anymore because the Prime Minister recently in the last few months said, okay, under 40s, you can go out and get the AstraZeneca vaccine if your GP, your general practitioner, your doctor says that you can get the AstraZeneca vaccine. Then the major health body, which is like a professional association of all doctors in Australia, said, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't get the AstraZeneca vaccine. I personally went to my GP and they said, we're not doing that. I'm not going to offer you the AstraZeneca vaccine, even though the government advice was that if I wanted to, I could. So complete schmozzle, complete just cock up.
Well,
and
I also want to
we're at
add
the point
that
now where
good thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Good thing the U.S. government also didn't do anything similar about mixed messaging, and never here.
Right.
I would never. For us it was the masks, and it's just unbelievable. Just
What a mess.
Yeah,
It's just a mess everywhere.
Yeah, it's a disaster, right? And now the conversation here has become vaccine hesitancy, when in actuality, like, people who are under the age of 40 who are, like, able-bodied, who are predominantly healthy, still aren't eligible to get the vaccine. So we're saying, oh, vaccine hesitancy, we need to make sure that people go out and get the vaccine. Well, actually, you're not even fucking eligible to get the vaccine. So, like, why are we even talking about vaccine hesitancy? And further, like, we don't even have enough doses to cover everyone who wants the vaccine. So this conversation is completely cooked. It's all gone tits up here. It's awful. We are in fact doomed.
No better way to end that call than the mentioning the name of the show. Thanks so much for the call.
No worries, mate. No worries. Thanks very much, buddy.
Always a pleasure when you call in and give me an update on what's going on. Well, you don't always give me an update on what's going on in Australia, but just you being Australian and calling in, I feel like I'm getting an update about what's going on in Australia, even when you're talking about something completely different.
All good. Have a good one. Cheers.
Take care.
Doomed ambassador to Australia.
Are you noticing a sudden I think Skype just froze on me. Yeah, let me close Skype. I'm going to lose you, but I'll call you right back.
Okay.
That's weird. Give me 1 second. I am going to call Mike back. All right, tech difficulties. It's been working really good so far, honestly. Hey.
There we go.
Yeah, my Skype completely froze, and then you were coming in all choppy, and so I couldn't even hang up the previous call, but it should be working now.
There we go.
I'll accept that failure from Skype because everything else has worked so perfectly so far. So they can mess up if they'd like. You want to do one more call, maybe?
Sure.
Feel free to call in. I'll take whoever calls.
I really want to start saying tits up, but it's just not appropriate in America. It's just an Australian thing. I love it.
Yeah, here we go. Oh, cool. This is the person who was trying to call in before.
Oh, nice.
Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from? You are on the air. Hello? Hello?
Does this work?
Yeah, you're on. We hear you.
Yeah.
We hear you. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Nathan from Maryland. I've called into the Majority Report a couple times. How are you doing?
Doing good. Glad to see that you got it working. Apparently, I got to also make note next time I ask for people to call in that you can't use the web version of Skype either. You got to download the app. Not the business version, not the web version. You got to download good old original OG Skype for your phone or your desktop/laptop and call in and it'll work. What was it to talk about today?
Well, first off, I'm going to say, do you have a big blue screen to your left, or is that just a corner of Mike's arm in my screen?
It's the corner of Mike's arm. Yeah, I guess it's not all coming in for some reason.
Mm.
Well, yeah. The corner of Mike's arm is very handsome, I must say.
Thank you. I get that a lot, actually, about the corner of my arm.
Wonderful. So, yeah, I was calling in kind of to follow up from Kowalski from Nebraska with the point.
Mike, we just lost your video. What's going on? What'd you do to me?
Oh, I still am here.
There you are. You're back. That was weird.
Oh, I'm not sure what happened.
All right.
Are we good?
All right.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Go ahead. Continue, buddy.
Yeah, Kowalski from Nebraska was kind of talking about the fecklessness of our politicians. But one thing that I've actually started to become amazed by is the utter incompetence of lobbyists, corporate lobbyists or otherwise, also within DC. And the reason I'm amazed by it is because they're paid to advocate for the things that they talk about. And I can like give an example. I'm pretty active in the Palestine Solidarity movement, and one local lobbyist, his name's Ron Halber from the Jewish Community Relations Center, a right-wing Jewish group, sent a letter to Governor Hogan telling him to crack down on Ben and Jerry's and look into their state contracts because they pulled out of horror upon horrors the occupied Palestinian territories. Oh no. And I kind of just started a little Facebook kerfuffle with him, telling him about how he's supporting apartheid. And he starts calling me a propagandist, despite him literally giving quotes from Israeli politicians talking about how Palestinians never miss a chance to miss a chance, or other similar kind of racist claptraps of that sort. And it's like there's no originality in the thoughts that they have. It's literally they are automatons in their spare time in addition to when they're in front of a television. I just kind of find it amazing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, they don't even hide it. They don't hide any of this. Like, it's all out and open, and they're quite, they're quite transparent in that way, in sense. Obviously, I mean, they're not transparent all the way in terms of what's going on behind the scenes and what money's flowing around, but you definitely know when this is going on.
It's just, I mean, on the one hand, it's kind of depressing because these are the dumbasses that have captured our government. But on the other time, it's like kind of empowering because at least when you're talking to people, I've gotten like Baltimore Sun pieces into the paper a couple times, and it starts a lot of uproar when you hit the right nerve because people see your perspective and then they look back at the talking points and it's just so obvious, I guess in Israel-Palestine's case, that yeah, maybe you should not bomb Palestinians in Gaza who can't leave. And maybe refugees deserving equal rights isn't that much of a stretch because they're not rats or other things that Israel likes to treat them as, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I mean, it's a little late for you guys. It's a little late for me.
It definitely is. Thanks for the call. Really appreciate you taking the time to call in. Definitely call in again when you could call in earlier, and we're more in a mode, I guess, to talk more. Really, you got Skype now, so we should all be good for next time.
Yeah, I'm doing a coding boot camp and finishing off my master's degree, so hopefully I can do that like in a month and a half because I'm doing those at the same time, and it takes literally 13 hours a day, 3 days a week, plus 2 other full work days.
Right.
That's a lot.
All right.
Thanks for the call, buddy. Appreciate you taking the time to get everything working to call in.
Yeah, take it easy, you guys. Have a good one.
Peace.
You too.
All right, that's it for calls, folks. I know there was. You might be shocked to hear this, Mike. There was more people trying to call in.
Wow.
I just realized you have my green screen feed on your Twitch channel. Is that?
Oh, I do.
Is that how it's been the whole time?
Yes.
Like since the beginning?
No, actually, in the first call, I don't think it was. I think it was the your great background.
I don't want no one to see the magic that happens behind me.
There we go. You too. There we go. Yeah. There we go.
All right. So let's. I just messed up your feed though, because now you're in your screen twice.
Oh. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I just got an echo. I realized that I had your live stream playing in the background. There we go. Okay.
All right, so we're all just good thing I fixed that. Just we're about to end the show, but before we go, do you have like 5 more minutes?
I have as much time as you want. I'll probably stay on a little bit longer actually after
Really?
you end your show.
I'm getting to that point of the night. I sometimes there's been times where I've gone like 4 hours doing this, and it's
you usually end before me actually.
Really?
I rated your Twitch stream one time, but I realized that you were only following the YouTube chat, so I'm like, go send Matt love, and then like you're about to leave also, and I think that like you weren't watching the Twitch feed, so I'm like, well, there was an attempt. I'll tell him one day.
All right. So I wanted to quickly talk about. Hold on, did I read all the? Let me actually get this super chat out of the way.
Yeah,
There's a
feel
few more.
free.
Jason J with a super chat. Groypers versus grifters in a Survivor Series style match. Who wins? It's the same team. Groypers,
Right.
Groypers are grifters, but not all grifters are groypers. So
I would
there
say
you go.
that the grifters generally would win because groypers are prepubescent,
Right.
so they probably don't have
They're
a
all-
lot of like.
They are
If we're
very
talking
young.
death match, yeah, they wouldn't survive.
There was a username that I came across on Twitter one day. It was called at Groypers Retiree, and I was dying to know if this was an old person who was like the one old Groyper, so they called themselves the Groyper Retiree, or if this was someone who retired from being a Groyper, like at the ripe old age of like 26 or something. I did not find out though. But anyway, what I wanted to talk with you about, and if anyone gets in a super chat after this, you can still get your super chats in. Is what I'm trying to say. I'll get to them at the very end. What I'd like to talk to you about, Mike, is have you heard of this guy named Jimmy Dore? No, I don't want to talk about that at all.
I was gonna actually say earlier when I was going through, so I didn't, for the guy who called in earlier with the bunny, I couldn't find you through that thread because it's massive, but I did stumble across one pet picture, and I had to share this with you because I thought you'd appreciate this, Matt. Somebody posted a picture of Jimmy Dore and said, "My pet has been getting old and going downhill lately." And it just made me laugh. It just made me laugh.
Well, what I wanted to talk about, is this past Tuesday was a big election in Ohio, a special election. And it was Nina Turner running for a House seat in Ohio District 11, right? District 11. And
Yes.
she was facing, her main opponent was a woman being backed by the Democratic establishment, Chantel Brown. That was her name, right? I'm already...
Yes.
It's late. But Nina Turner was favored for many months. And then this past Tuesday, she lost. It was like 51 or 50 or 51% to like 42, 43%, something like that. Basically, she lost by about 4,000 plus votes. It's certainly disappointing. Nina Turner is... many progressives would not someone who just calls himself progressive. Many leftists, let's get specific here. Many leftists would say that Nina Turner would have been a great advocate for leftist policy if she won and was in Congress. She certainly would have been right at the top of the list of allies to have. I mean, she quite frankly could have been the most progressive person in the House. I mean, I would have been interested to see how Nina Turner would be able to even out left AOC, who is easily the most left-wing candidate in Congress. And I know many people in certain subgroups on the left would argue that that's not the case. AOC is a sellout along with the fraud squad, but it's just literally the truth. You can look at how they vote on bills, and AOC is easily hands down the most progressive member of Congress. It's not even close.
Yeah.
I'm also a big fan of Cori Bush and Ilhan Omar and Jamal Bowman and Rashida Tlaib. They are high up on that list too, but I'm pretty sure, maybe I need to recheck since Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman have been around for a bit longer now, but AOC, last I checked, is at the top of that list of most progressive lawmakers. So it's disappointing that Nina Turner is not going to be there. I wasn't as optimistic going into this. I thought it was clear that Nina Turner just had the name recognition, at being that she was such a big surrogate for Bernie Sanders over the years, both in 2016 and 2020. People did not know really who else was running. Chantel Brown was just like a city council person. You'd be surprised, even in New York City, how many people come out to vote for city council races. It's not a lot. So I could imagine how it is in other smaller cities. And, she had Hillary Clinton endorse her. Clyburn came up from South Carolina. I believe he actually came to Ohio and endorsed her. Apparently, he says because Killer Mike, while he was campaigning with Nina Turner, called him stupid. I've watched what it was. He didn't call him stupid. He said that it was stupid that Clyburn wasn't getting more from Biden for black communities in exchange for his endorsement. But also, it's pretty clear that Clyburn was planning on getting involved regardless of that. He claims it was because of that. Doesn't seem like that's the case.
Yeah, I agree.
You had tons of super PAC money. Yes, Nina Turner outraged Chantel Brown, as all the centrist Democrats love to point out. Yes, that is the case. But super PAC money poured in for Chantel Brown. Actually, to be more accurate, super PAC money poured in to be anti Nina Turner.
Yeah,
the ads,
right in that last stretch too, where it really counts.
Right, and there was what was the group who put the most money in again? It was
DMFI PAC.
Yes, DMFI PAC,
Yeah.
which is a Democratic PAC for supporters of Israel, basically. And there was this whole discourse going on now that because Nina Turner in her concession speech called out these super PACs, specifically that PAC, and she called all of this sort of outside super PAC involvement evil money, I believe she called it. Because essentially it's pretty much dark money, because we don't really know who poured the money in. It's being funneled through these super PAC groups. And, you had different organizations come out calling what she said anti-Semitic to really dig in the the knife. The ADL even came out and said that it was anti-Semitic. And please, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. First of all, Nina Turner is quite clearly not anti-Semitic, and the calls to claim that Nina Turner is anti-Semitic are ridiculous. It undermines actual anti-Semitism. I don't get the same thing happened with Ilhan Omar, and when she was talking about the influence Israel and lobbyists for Israel have on policy here in this country. I mean, you'd have to be blind to pretend that that's just not the case. And it has nothing to do with being Jewish. And I am, as people know, religiously I'm not Jewish, but ethnically I am an Ashkenazi Jew. My father is religiously Jewish. I have a pretty good grasp as growing up with a family, where half my family was Jewish, on what anti-Semitism is. I mean, I cover the right. That is my lane, and a main reason I cover it is honestly because of white supremacy and anti-Semitism and how abhorrent that is. So I would say I have a pretty good grasp of what anti-Semitism is. And the idea that calling out Israel and organizations meant to prop up pro-Israel or Israel first policy is just ridiculous. That is not, it has nothing to do with them being Jewish. Israel is the name of their country, right? I mean, I would say the same about Saudi Arabia. That does not mean I'm Islamophobic now, does it? I would say the same about, I criticize this country all the time. Does that mean that I am anti-Christian or something like that? No. And this is even I'm going by the thought process that people who would think that attacks on the U.S. mean you're unpatriotic also think this is a Christian nation. It's just absurd. And it really does undermine any good work an organization like the ADL does when they do this. And, I saw recently that they were, getting involved with, they were going into a partnership with PayPal to make sure that, anti-Semitic groups or organizations do not conduct business on PayPal. They're going to sort of consult PayPal on what hate speech and hate groups are on their platform. And, when we're talking about white supremacist groups, far-right organizations, neo-Nazis, I'm all for it. It's their PayPal's could do what they want. It's their own business. And if they decide they don't want to deal with, have a business where they're helping monetarily fund and finance these organizations, that's totally up to them. And they have a right to decide that. And if they want to choose whoever they want to consult with, okay, whatever. But my worry with the ADL is you could see with the Nina Turner thing, they've been bad when it comes to anyone who even legitimately has criticisms of Israel. They've condemned pro-Palestinian groups. I am worried that means that if pro-Palestinian organizations try to fundraise on PayPal, that could put a damper on those plans because they can be tagged as anti-Semitic or anti-Israel hate group or something like that when they're just criticizing a country for its policies that essentially create an apartheid in their country against a certain group of people who live in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank.
Yeah, and the reason why this is especially egregious is because the group DMFI, if you look at their expenditures, they fund campaigns against Democrats more so than Republicans. I'm not necessarily sure what the margin is, but Sam Sachs of Means TV did a really great segment about this, where it's like they spent $500,000 against Republicans and 1.5 to 2 million against Democrats. So this is kind of like a centrist version of Justice Democrats, to where they'll jump in if they can prove that somebody isn't sufficiently pro-Israel or in lockstep with the Democratic Party's policy towards Israel. So they'll fund anyone against Ilhan Omar, running against AOC, and I think that your point about substituting in if this was Saudi Arabia, it really does make a difference, because if there was a majority for Russia PAC, the Democratic Party would rightfully call that out and say this influence obviously is not good. Who's funding these people? And in the case of DMFI, we know at least one of the funders. It's a billionaire heir who gave them, I believe, I can't remember how much gave them a lot of money, lots and lots of money. So to not be able to call out dark money and the commodification of elections, Democrats, they can't have it both ways. On one hand, they are trying to pass the For the People Act, which would shed some light on who's funding super PACs. It offer a little bit more transparency. So they're rightfully talking about dark money, and mind you, dark money is in lieu of them just talking about getting money out of politics altogether, which is the preferable policy choice. But on one hand, they'll say dark money's bad, but on another hand, they'll, I think, really cynically weaponize any use of the word dark money against people if DMFI gets involved, so that way they can claim anti-Semitism. And this isn't the first time that the Democratic Party has done this. I mean, they've done this in the past before against Keith Ellison. If you remember the DNC chair race in 2017 when he was running against Tom Perez, it was kind of the same thing. And you had Alan Dershowitz coming out and saying this man is so anti-Semitic. And even Bernie Sanders, I mean, how many times was he called a self-hating Jew by, these types of Democrats? So I think that people have to be savvy enough to not back down and explain their positions here. And I think that with time, this issue is going to change a little bit. I think that in this last round of bombing of Gaza by Israel, when the squad, they took to the House floor and they called it, apartheid, and they claimed that Benjamin Netanyahu, then prime minister, was a war criminal. I think that really publicly moved the needle significantly. The Overton window there shifted quite a bit. And so this tactic, it may work to an extent now. I don't think it's going to work that much longer. I think that especially young people think it's perfectly fine to call out dark money, even if it comes from DMFI. I think they can distinguish between actual anti-Semitism, which needs to be called out and eradicated from the Democratic Party and the Republican Party in America altogether, and this cynical attempt to weaponize these types of, oh, you're anti-Semitic. Nobody who's serious buys this about Nina Turner.
Right. Well, I don't know, because you do have serious organizations out there claiming that this is the case. I mean, listen, I know. Listen, ADL does do good work when
they do
actually focusing on right-wing, anti-Semitic, white supremacist, neo-Nazi organizations and personalities. But unlike a lot of other groups that focus on extremism, they feel like they need to do this as well. And that's what sort of is disappointing. And not sort of, it is absolutely disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just absurd that you would claim, listen, especially being that the Israeli government itself is a far-right administration.
Right.
Literally, they have teamed up with white supremacists and neo-Nazis to further their agenda. I mean, the way they buddied up to Trump, and then all of the various different superstars and personalities of the alt-right, when that was the big thing, to basically keep pushing themselves, to ingratiate themselves, I guess, with the American right. It is disgusting. And how is that not called out? But you don't see that. You don't see that at all. The Israeli government is a far right institution that, quite frankly, has gone into bed with the far right all across the world. Mm-hmm. And the idea that you would then claim that criticizing Israel would be anti-Semitic when the leaders of Israel themselves are hanging out and being buddy with literal anti-Semites. Then I mean you've lost the whatever the phrase is. I can't.
You lost the plot.
Thank you. That's the phrase.
Well, it's an impossible standard, right? Because if we accept this idea that criticisms of the Israeli government is anti-Semitic, then criticism of basically any government that isn't majority white is off the table. You can't criticize any African governments. You can't criticize Saudi Arabia, Muslim majority countries, as you pointed out. I mean, there has.
But for some reason, I hate to interrupt you, but for some reason, because I want you to bounce off this. For some reason, though, Israel's the only country that's seen in that light just for their religion. No one looks at no one when we drop bombs on Afghanistan and Iraq and killed millions of innocent people over there. No one said, "Oh, this is anti-Muslim and Islamophobic attack." No, we're doing what we got to do to fight terrorism.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I think that most of the overwhelming majority of this is from bad faith actors, but they benefit from the fact that a lot of anti-Semitism is a lot less overt than, let's say, like Islamophobia, right? Racism, there's particular dog whistles when it comes to anti-Semitism. It is more insidious. Like, there's not as many people who are just like openly anti-Semitic. And if they are, then they're from these alt-right groups and whatnot. So, I think that it's right to be suspicious of anyone who's like trying to propagate these sorts of conspiracy theories about like this cabal and the Alex Jones conspiracy, because anti-Semitism is something that people try to use under the radar. They use synonyms. They don't use the correct words, and it changes. I mean, this is kind of the nature of the alt-right and why it's really important that people follow the alt-right. So it is harder to point out, and so the hypersensitivity about anti-Semitism, I think it is warranted to a degree. However, you have to be able to distinguish between government policy and people, right? So like anything that the Israeli government does, that it's almost anti-Semitic, in my opinion, to suggest that if the Israeli government does something that's bad, that all Jewish people agree with their actions. Like, Jewish people are not monolithic, and so it's frustrating that they'll cynically try to change the conversation and the dynamics of what anti-Semitism means to fit their political narrative. It's gross, it's irritating, and I hate when Democrats do this. Like, one of the big issues was, like, in 2016, we all remember Hillary Clinton talking about how can I be establishment, Bernie, if I'm a woman? How can a woman be part of the establishment when she knows what he's talking about? And things like this, they're not just disingenuous. I actually think that they have long-term negative effects, because then they think, oh, well, that's silly, so sexism must not really be an issue in actuality, when it is.
I know what you're talking. You see this online. I saw this a lot posted against progressives who were upset that Nina Turner lost. You saw centrist Democrats and Chantal Brown supporters replying to them with a meme photo. It's like a group of black women, like older black women, dressed in their Sunday best, and under it says like "Meet the establishment," and it's just like no one, you guys. I feel sad because you guys are totally misunderstanding. I wish those older black women in their Sunday best were the establishment.
Right.
Even if they voted for these centrist Dems because they felt like they would be the people most able to beat right-wing and Republican candidates, even though I disagree. But even if that's why they voted for them, I wish those older black women in their Sunday best were the establishment, because they're just real, regular people who wouldn't put up with the bullshit that politicians pull, and they would hold them to account and say, what are you doing for my community? What are you doing for the people in my community? I wish that was the case. Then they could vote for Chantel Browns and Clyburns all they want, because I also pretty sure they would attack the Clyburns for taking all that big pharma money. They'd attack Chantel Brown for, what was it that she was doing? She was like helping get her like family or friends these city contracts or something like that.
And then they do a fundraiser for her in turn, like weeks later. It's so overt.
Right, but instead what happens is that the establishment, the actual Democratic establishment, the people who are in power, the lobbyists, the super PACs, the people sitting up high in the Democratic Party who want to keep things the way they are because it works out for them monetarily, they get it down to those average voters that, hey, if you want to win, you got to be with us. You got to go ahead and vote for this centrist Democrat. They, in turn, it makes sense to them, right? They're lifelong Democrats. They know the Democratic Party are the one thing holding back the Republicans. Legitimate concerns, legitimate reasons to vote for the Democratic Party. Hell, that's why I, at the end of the day, after the primaries, vote for the most part Democrat. Never, pretty much all the time. I think there's been like one or two protest votes I've done where it hasn't mattered, and not in presidential elections, really where it just hasn't mattered at all. Again, I'm in New York, so it's a lot easier to do that. Right. I think one time I just did not vote for Chuck Schumer because he angered me about something, and
I did the same for Ron Wyden, but I'm in Oregon and he's gonna win.
Right? Yeah. Same. Schumer was never. It's not even like a Hillary situation where like it's a nationwide race, so who knows what could happen, and every vote counts for the popular vote. If there's discrepancy there, I voted for Hillary in 2016 at the end of the day. I voted for Biden in 2020 at the end of the day. So like, I wish those people, whoever they claim are the establishment, whether it's a group of black women in their Sunday best, whether it's a picture of a professional business, small business, whomever they're claiming is the establishment as a joke. I wish, well, maybe not the small business owner, but I wish they were the establishment.
Or any landlords.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
I agree. It's
not
this
the case,
really is irritating to me because it does do long-term damage And when I saw like Pete Buttigieg in 2020 emerge, I mean, I hated his guts, but I was like, oh God, please don't let the Democratic Party weaponize homophobia. And they kind of did during the Iowa debacle. Like you saw, oh, this is the first time a gay man has ever won the Iowa caucus, and Bernie bros are flipping these things. Like when the Democratic Party does that, they're basically throwing these communities under a bus, because then people who aren't part of these communities, they see that and they get turned off by it and irritated, because it is super cynical. They're weaponizing it. And I don't want people to be anti-identity politics, because identities are really important. They're inextricably linked to our political experiences. So, it's important that people acknowledge it. So Democrats have to stop doing that, but they're going to do it, because I think that to a degree it works with the Democratic Party's most loyal base. Like, when they say, oh, well, this is sexism, this is anti-Semitism, and this progressive is no different than, Republicans or whatever, in the rhetoric that they use towards Israel, it does, I think, land with a lot of the Democratic Party's base. I think that's going to change as their base changes and gets more younger, because younger people are more savvy. But it's I agree with everything that you're saying. I am disappointed in the ADL here with the Nina Turner thing, because I don't want people to see this and just disregard them altogether. I think that the organization as a whole does do good work. I don't think that it's worthwhile to throw them away. The same is true for Human Rights Campaign. I hate so much of what they do. The leadership is awful. It's all bad. But they do good studies, and outreach. So it's these organizations, they're their own worst enemy sometimes, I think.
Yeah. It's really, I think we're not, I don't think it's over for Nina Turner. I think she will definitely run again for something. She'll probably eventually win. Don't forget, Cori Bush lost the first time she ran. And now look at her. She's single-handedly, well, I don't want to say single-handedly, but she's leading the charge in extending the eviction moratorium. That pressure on the Biden administration worked. Now, whether the Biden administration always planned on doing it and wanted someone to go out and make it happen so it looked like they had to be pushed, or they actually need to be pushed, I don't really care. The point is it's happening.
Right.
The same thing with what I was saying before. I wouldn't care pretty much about who was being elected if the establishment was just ordinary people, because they would then force the hand of whatever politician won to actually enact the policy that we want. So it really wouldn't matter. Like AOC and whatever establishment Dem would be the same, because they would be beholden to the establishment, aka you, me, Chantel Brown's base, Nina Turner's base. It would all mean the same pretty much.
Yeah, I think that the people who vote for establishment politicians and these centrist Democrats and right-wing Democrats who I hate, I think that they're better than the people that they elect 9 times out of 10. You can look at the polls from a lot of states. They support a $15 an hour minimum wage. Nationally, even though support for Medicare for all has slipped slightly, they support these policies. It's just maybe that, the something else is more salient to them, or electability. But I think that by and large, the Democratic Party's base is, that they're not bad. They're not irredeemable. They just kind of get used by the Democratic Party. And I don't blame them for getting used by the Democratic Party, because to them, they have no choice. The alternative is just this party that's psychopathic at this point. They're basically we have people shitting themselves, frothing at the mouth, supporting QAnon walking into Congress. There's no alternatives in this country that's viable. So it's I don't blame the people, even though it is frustrating.
Right. Yeah, it's not even clear exactly how Nina Turner lost yet. I don't know if anyone's dove into. I don't think it's what people are saying. It's not like, obviously Bernie Sanders did not do very well with, especially in the South, with black communities, black voters. I don't think that's the case with Nina Turner in Ohio. I think what actually ended up happening, and I have to dive more into this data when it's available, if it isn't already. But it seems like actually the same thing that happened when Joe Biden happened. What would put Joe Biden over the top? White suburbans came out to put the more centrist candidate over the top.
That's what I've seen too, actually.
Yeah, I'm not saying that black voters didn't vote for Chantel Brown. I'm sure they did. They also voted for Nina Turner. It's just the fact of the matter is what seems to have put Chantel Brown over the top is the centrist, moderate, probably, if not well off, comfortable, white suburban voter.
Mm-hmm. And also one other component that I'm not 100% like, this is all a little bit early, so this is mostly speculation, but in Akron, Nina Turner really needed a high turnout rate in this particular area, and the turnout rate was actually really low. So perhaps like they didn't have enough on the ground volunteers. I'm not necessarily sure, but like you said, at the end of the day, it's Nina Turner. I do believe that if she wants to come back, she has a great shot at winning. I mean, this is 2022. She can come back and run again. The primary is in June or July of next year for this seat again. I think that she will end up in Congress, and the Cori Bush example really is the best example that you cited because, it's easy to get demoralized, but honestly, winning the first time is always really, really unlikely. I mean, as excited as we were about AOC's win, things like that are very, very rare in politics, especially when we're facing like political behemoths or incumbents especially. The reason why I had a little bit more hope in this instance is because Chantel Brown wasn't the incumbent Democrat. But, again, when you have the entire Democratic Party leadership, going after you, that's really difficult to overcome. It doesn't mean that, that obstacle that they pose is insurmountable. I think she can win.
Right. Absolutely. Mike, thank you so much for joining me tonight for this extended session. We went over to 3 hours.
Yeah.
I want to
appreciate it.
hold on. We got one last minute super chat coming in. Two last minute super chats. Kowalski dropped a super chat, super sticker actually, which is he had that pear dude giving like the fruit, the pear dude giving me a cup of coffee. That little super sticker.
Nice.
Because he saw that I was in need of some caffeine. Thank you, Kowalski. And then we got Tina S with a super chat. I am a patron of 4 left YouTube creator channels, and Matt B and Mike F are 2 of them. My fave 2, actually. 2 in 1. Thank you for all you do. I don't think there's any better way to end this episode.
That just made my night. That's what was her name again?
Tina S.
Tina, thank you so much. You're so sweet.
I really appreciate the kind words, Tina. I'm glad you enjoyed this combination of like, it's like we came together to form like not Megatron, that's Transformers. What's the Power Rangers? Was that Ultron? No, is that, I can't remember.
Was it? I feel like it was Megatron, was it? Or Megazoid?
Power Rangers robot, really quick.
Chat, help me out. Why am I blanking on this? I must be tired. Megazord,
right. We just came together like Megazord. That sounds wrong though. I don't remember it being Megazord, but it's right. Oh, wow, it's been a long time.
Yeah, my chat is confirming Megazord.
This isn't a super chat, but Ryan is saying, "Come on, Matt, 45 more minutes." No, I'm done. I've had quite the week actually. I'll talk more about it next week. I've had a rough week. I had a computer die on me, and it's just. And then other family, everyone's good right now and healthy, but stressful week. I'm done. I'm tapping out. Mike, this was an absolute pleasure. I can't believe I'm acting like I'm like throwing in the towel early. I'm actually throwing in the towel slightly after the amount of time that the show should actually normally run for.
Well, I was telling you earlier that I'm going to stay on a little bit longer after you. No, I can't now. It's like I'll probably bounce relatively soon. I'll just check in with my chat. Usually after 9 p.m. PST, I'm like, my brain just starts to shut off.
Oh, I
don't know what it is.
It's after midnight here, so I'm.
Oh, you're done.
I'm done. I mean, when we started, it was 9 p.m. here, so.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I usually do. I'm crazy, but I got the 2 kids here, so I work during the day, so I unfortunately can't do early stream. So I'm left to doing it after the kids go to bed, and that's my stream time. Maybe one day people will know that, like, oh, you want like late night leftist show? Then Matt Binder's the guy who's staying up late doing it. Yeah, that's the situation. Mike, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Love to have you on again soon.
Anytime.
Enjoy the rest of your Twitch chat, buddy.
Yeah, you take care. Get some sleep.
Oh, also drop where can people find you. That's how I gotta make sure. If anyone, it would astound me if people did not know on my channel, but just in case.
Well, I'll plug my Twitch, twitch.tv/Humanist Report. I'm going to be probably making a partner push pretty soon. So it'd be awesome if you came and give us a follow over there.
Everyone do that. And of course, Mike's viewers, youtube.com/MattBinder, twitch.tv/MattBinder.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, first I'll say bye to Mike. Take care, Mike. Have a great night.
You take care.
And then I will say, 1 second. I want to give you guys I want to make sure I say. And now, to my listeners, thank you so much for joining me. I will be taking, not this upcoming week, the week after next, I will be taking the first week off of doing this show, I think, in over a year and a half. I need to just take a break. I'm going not far, but to visit some family for a week. I will actually probably still do the Majority Report that Thursday, only because it's easy for me just to bring a mic, plug it in, set up a webcam, and just be a guest on the Majority Report like I do every Thursday for an hour. However, putting together my own show and doing everything from the producing and the grabbing the clips and having a guest and reading up on everything to talk about with that guest, questions, and it's going to be too much for me to do on that week off. So, but I'm not going to leave you guys hanging. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 live streams next week. So those live streams will be what they are. They'll be live that week. And then for the podcast, I will release those 2 live streams week after week. So on the podcast, you'll still get new audio on that week I'm off. And if you don't catch the live stream, you could just save up that extra live stream replay for that week that I'm off if you want. That, again, is not next week. It's the week after next. And then it's my birthday that following week. So we'll do a stream that week on my birthday week when I'm back. So I'm still giving you guys the extra content. Just won't be live the week after next. Not extra content. I'm still giving you guys the normal amount of content. Just won't be live the week after next. So one stream next week will probably have a guest, and one stream next week will probably be I have a few stories of my own I want to do. One of those Matt face-to-face episodes, and that will be released next week and the following week on the podcast, but live all next week. Once again, patreon.com/MattBinder if you're not already subscribed. I don't want to, I could use, if you've been thinking about becoming a subscriber to the Patreon page, the week where I got to throw down a bunch of money to fix my laptop so I can have that extra computer to run the show, make things easier when I'm researching things that I don't want on the screen, so the stream runs smoothly. And also because I need that laptop when I'm gone the week after next to do the Majority Report. It would be a great time to become a patron, so so it's not that big of a hit to the whole wallet. But not gonna do any like crowdfunding because I could charge it. Folks, thank you for tuning in. See you all next time on Doomed.